we had like 6 months where we didn't have to do anything during the pandemic, and I was like, okay, I know what's going to happen here. Like, we just didn't work.
Yeah.
We got paid to not work. It was, everybody talks about how terrible 2020 was. It was a vacation for me. Like, I got summer break as an adult. I didn't do anything at all. I got paid for it.
The South Park special with Cartman's little song.
I was
at the
Cartman,
beginning.
yeah.
You watched that? Like, yeah, no, it's like everyone's like, oh my God, it's an introvert's dream. And like the other thing is that like I am on that level of civilization that the pandemic was nothing but inconvenience for me. But the whole part where I had to still go outside and live,
Yeah.
like nothing in my life changed except for everybody around me freaked out and yelled.
There was such a dual universe of people who had to go out and be in the world and people who didn't.
Oh, I know.
Nothing.
And then, like,
what I had to do
I'd be
was,
I'd be at work. I'd be at work scrolling Facebook and seeing like my obese LCSW friend posting about, oh my God, how to deal with this. It's like, oh Jesus Christ! Like, you're literally having everything delivered to your house. You live on a beach on the Pacific coast. Like,
no, I saw this coming, and I
literally,
was
I'm
like,
not kidding.
okay,
They literally live
okay,
on
we're
the
about
beach on the Pacific
we're about to
coast.
get a lot of time off, and what's going to happen is I'm going to think it's amazing. First off, I'm going to consolidate everything to my living room. Me and my wife are going to move the mattress out into the living room so we can just lay there and watch shows and play video games all day. We're going to have 2 TVs up, maybe 3. We're going to like be ordering food all the time. I was like, okay, I'm going to gain 1 million pounds. I'm going to be disgusting. So I have to not do that. So I just lived on every morning. I'd have eggs and bacon and coffee. I'd go run a mile. And then in the evening, I'd have some chicken or steak or something like that. And I lost 80 pounds on that. And that was like, I want to see the alternate version where I just did the things that I was already just like 8 Taco Bell runs a week throughout that COVID thing. I would have been just hideous.
Yeah, I got fat and lost it all 3 times through COVID.
Jeez.
See.
I stayed the same weight. My life was 95% the same.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
because
there really was 2 worlds.
I guess I was an essential worker. I just, you know what? I just said, I don't give a shit. I'm going to work, and hardly ever wore a mask. I got yelled at, and I always got sneered at for going into Home Depot not wearing mask, but I was just like, this shit stinks to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was immediately obvious.
Yeah.
It was immediately obvious that this was at worst a serious flu or cold type.
Well, my girlfriend and I were some of the first probably 20 to 30 people in Utah diagnosed with it. And well, she was diagnosed and I was next to her. Even at that time, we didn't know what the heck was going on. And we were calling around trying to get to hospitals or get tested or get talking to like the health department and all that stuff. And I said, yeah, like they didn't care. Nobody gave a crap. They were calling them around saying, well, what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. Stay home.
Well,
just fucking die, I guess, because it kills everyone.
Very early on, my cousin's husband was in a coma for like 10 days because of it. And I'm talking, I mean, February, March of 2020, but he was an Uber driver, because the other thing is like he was a Mormon guy, like reasonably healthy, never smoked or drank any of that, didn't have like the respiratory problems or any of that, but it very nearly killed him. But he and I had that data point very, very early on. But meanwhile, I also saw the rest of the universe, and that it's hitting some people, but
it's so weird.
I started yesterday. Is that I remember every year, Skeptic's Guide to the Universe would announce how many people died of that year's flu, and kind of talk about how nobody seemed to care, and how vaccination programs seemed to just go past everybody. Nobody and then all of a sudden COVID happens, and we're counting. Jesus
there's
Christ.
like 1,000.
That's like the first thing I noticed was just like the screwing of data.
Yeah,
it was like, I mean, immediately I was like, okay, this is screwed up. But one thing that I totally noticed, and I mean, you have to answer me this, you guys. Did you find yourself even just the slightest little bit kind of giddy that we were entering zombie apocalypse? Because I noticed I noticed that with a lot of people, you know, they're
Like
pumping,
they're like, oh
pumping
boy,
their,
oh boy.
pumping their heads full of Netflix, and oh, you know what? We're entering into, it's happening, guys.
Well, there's a lot of people that say they want to see the world burn, and then this really called their bluff. That was one of my favorite memes throughout that, was like all of these people keep saying like, we need a new plague, and then remember when we got that really fucking wimpy one and you guys all made me wear a mask to save grandma?
Has anybody made a website where they're keeping track of, because like, you know how there's that counter for how much time had passed since that, what's her name, that I forget her name, that psychic had accepted James Randi's challenge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, what about the one for all the people who announced that they were leaving the country? When
I think somebody has
like,
done that.
yeah,
I bet
like,
you we could find that.
like,
Yeah.
come on, like, you either need to apologize, explain and apologize, or get the fuck out.
Yeah. It'd be nice if they did.
We have a housing crisis. Get out.
Yeah.
Did you see that great?
No,
Ryan
sorry.
Long had a great skit where he was talking about how for just a moment lazy people got to shine because like they were brave all of a sudden. Like
Yeah.
it was and he's like that shows him and his.
That totally sums up the zeitgeist of everything right now.
I mean, that's the thing I'm talking about.
I'll
Like,
send it to you.
I have my friend who, like, God bless her, I love her. She's morbidly obese. She's a fat activist. She's a licensed clinical counselor. She lives on a beach on the Pacific coast, you know. And she posted all this shit about like, God, I'm not amazing, and like I can't believe, you know, that stuff. Like, I can't believe people in Texas are having picnics. Just
How often did she start her comments with "as a healthcare professional"?
yeah. I'm like, it was, again, very, very early on, I saw a thing that was like, for me, it was just like, okay, no, like the spell is broken. I have seen behind the curtain. And it was that meme of, I don't even know where it was, somewhere back east, where they said, you can't gather for church, but you can shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was that
and you can go to the press. You can go to the protest.
You can't go to small. You can't go to small businesses. You can't go to small businesses. You can only go to the big
Walmart. They had their choir. They had their church. They did the whole thing. They bought stuff. And it's just like,
I remember
it's
I remember the 2
seconds.
seconds. I remember the 2 relative seconds that I thought like, oh shit, is this okay? We got to take this seriously, and it was for like maybe a day or two. And there was like a list of things that counted as essential businesses. And it took them like a day, maybe 2 days to be like, yeah, liquor stores are on that list. And I was like, okay, fuck off.
Yeah.
I think the state needs to make its money and we need to get drunk. We can't, we got a plague going around that's killing all these people. But like,
you know what they did?
Get drunk.
They put stickers on the floor that say "stand here" while you wait. Everybody ignored it. They put the plexiglass barrier because everybody knows that respiratory viruses can only move in a straight line and literally nothing else. You know, that's like the lead at the X-ray. It's a barrier.
Did you guys have the ones where like on the keypads for the thing, the card?
Oh, they added
would put
the thing?
Well, they would add like a plastic film over it.
Some places, I don't think the DAD
but then they wouldn't remove it ever. So it was like just
no, exactly
pools of sweat and germs on a watertight surface now instead of making.
And the thing is like, and the thing about those barriers just really bothers me is because like it was one of those things where very early on when they first came in and put up the temporary barriers, I said, these are never going away. And the people around me were like, oh, come on. Here we are. And it's like, and they put in the permanent ones now. And here's the thing that I know is that the reason they're never going to go away, or like, they might go away, but it'll take enough time that all the people who were behind that decision are out of the picture. Because otherwise they would have to admit that it was all completely pointless. It was a waste of time and money, you know? And I mean, it was just hysteria. And they can't come to admit that. Like, how are they going to bring themselves to admit that they spent all this money and all this senselessness? I mean, all the people that yelled at me about my mask, and it's just wash your fucking hands.
One of my favorite aspects of it was whenever you'd walk into a bank and you didn't have a mask on, they looked at you like you were going to rob the place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had to,
That's the opposite.
You have to come in with your face covered now.
Sir, why is
Oh,
your
yeah.
face showing?
Exactly.
That was a hilarious thing
Thing
about
is-
Utah liquor stores. Is like somebody even posted it on the. There's a website where a Facebook group where all they do is complain about the state Utah Liquor Board, whatever. But they had it side by side. 2019, a sign said Halloween 2019. If you're wearing a mask, you cannot buy alcohol. Halloween 2020. If you are not wearing a mask,
Man, well, I was in HR and working at a place, with a bunch of, grocery workers, people who were stocking shelves all day, working 10, 12 hours with that stuff on. And when people who were just stuck in their houses would scream about it, I would want so badly just to come and do every Three Stooges move I could on their faces, man. Because like the people who actually had to have those on all day, every day, and how they had no idea what it was like. Oh, it pissed me off so bad. But
and they're
anyway,
just at home ordering DoorDash. And the
Yeah.
DoorDash came from restaurants that cooked your delicious food with fresh produce. Produce they got from the store.
And then they bark
That's
at the
my
person because it
favorite.
wasn't perfect over their nose or something.
That might be my favorite of all time. The profile filters in Facebook are always cringy as all hell. The I support the current thing ones, but like the cringiest one of all time, I think had to have been the stay home, save lives thing. Like you're
my
brave
gosh.
for this. That's what this video is about.
Let's say it. That's a good segue.
I guarantee DoorDash was the biggest super spreader in the whole
Oh, yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Bugging me to get a job now. Dude, remember when we were heroes? We're not working.
The pandemic is ending and they're opening places back up.
Oh, great. They're opening bars now.
But they've failed to consider the effect that might have on members of the lazy community.
Hey, we're out of toilet paper again.
Yeah, that's what Uber Eats napkins are for.
My whole life I've procrastinated on doing anything productive, and finally the accountability is removed, and then boom, they just put it back on us.
Oh, perfect. We're opening gyms again.
They should be fining that gym owner.
Here's a list of things I was supposed to do once the pandemic ended. And I'm supposed to do them? I don't think so.
During the pandemic, I got to yell at people who were working.
It's something I gotta say with gyms. It's like in Utah, in gyms and that sort of stuff, they were closed about 6 weeks, man. And then they were open again, and everybody was in there with, like they said, wear the masks up front, and that was it. And everybody was in there working out the whole time. And we'd been in there 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, a year. And you'd hear these other people who just were living on a different planet than you saying, we can't go back outside without the mask. You're like, what? You have no idea what's been going on everywhere. Life's been going on.
And see, this is just another one of those things where it's like, God damn it, I'm not a super scientist. I don't have a PhD in epidemiology or virology or any of these things. But I've been on planet Earth for 42 years. And I know enough about biology and evolution that I don't see, other than like divine intervention, that respiratory viruses make like the quantum leap that like
there's some I'll find
because again, like it turned out that it
there's
was
some,
a bad cold.
Yeah, and there's something
not only is it a
about-
bad cold, and not only does it like did we do the weird social distancing thing? One of the most absurd thing, maybe, I don't know. I keep saying this, but when you see them talking about double and triple masking, it's like, how is that not somebody's COVID breaking point? Like, shut your fucking mouth, Fauci.
And that's the other side of this coin, of the ridiculousness of this, is like to say that like, oh, viruses suddenly got dangerous where they weren't before. And then the other side of it is like, well, up until now, cold viruses could go through cloth.
It sounds like a
principle.
Will Ferrell movie where it sounds like a Will Ferrell movie where he has to like make up rules on the fly or something.
No, exactly.
Like,
that's
we find out they're going through masks. What do we do? Like,
I'm struggling to put this together in my mind, right? But like
masks.
Yeah, like there's just this thing where it's like, no, people have worn face coverings before. Like, and I think over like 10,000 years of civilization, like, okay, here we go. If there were no colds in places where women wear burqas, you'd have a case.
There's a principle.
All right. But there are places where half of society wears a face mask in public all the time. Do they have the same COVID transmission? Somebody tell me that, for fuck's sake.
There's a principle, and I can't find it right now because Google's not going to show it to me. And I would look it up on James Lindsay's Twitter, but he's banned from Twitter because he mentioned it many times. But there's a principle that respiratory viruses do what they do. and there's nothing you can do to stop it. There's some scientific principle about it. They're
I
going to go
remember
where they're going to
learning
go.
On Skeptic's Guide to the Universe 15 years ago, it was one of the science or fiction things. Like, interesting factoid that there are trillions with the T, different species of respiratory viruses living in our lungs from the day we're born till the day we die. They're just there.
Yeah. And it was, of course, mentioned again on Dehlin and Larsen. Dehlin had an interview with Steve Pinecker, and he mentioned the same thing. It's like, there's just two opposite worlds out there nowadays. There's people who think the COVID virus is real, and the people who just think it's all a big hoax. And that's
I can't count how many times I've been accused of like of saying the COVID virus isn't real. It's just like, such a bizarre thing.
It's real. It's just not worth you. From the very beginning, the very first week, I probably have it on my Facebook somewhere, although I've gone deleting things off my Facebook. But I said, you got to think of the triage here of shutting down the entire economy versus how much this is going to kill. And people screamed at me for it. How dare you think of grandma? And I'm not saying that as like the trope joke. Somebody said that.
Yeah.
Like somebody said, think of your grandma. Think of your grandma.
Yeah, that was a.
The trope is true. It was real. Like,
that was a total.
We didn't make that up. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things I'm so tired of. Is like, they coined the term woke. We learn about it, use it correctly. I mean, just yesterday, somebody, fucking NPR comments Facebook argument, somebody says, you're using the word woke as if it means something. So I just immediately linked to Merriam-Webster, where the first definition of woke is the social justice definition.
Yeah.
And like, are they stupid or lying?
Well, I just
every
saw
time,
on the Mormon subreddit, they were arguing about that stupid, like, obviously fake N-word debacle with Duke. And somebody was, this guy was getting into it, saying, no, I think it was fake. And everybody, the Mormon subreddit is just ex-Mormon. I don't know why it's called Mormon, but
yeah,
and it's insufferable. And this guy was saying, like, you guys are just like throwing these ad hominem attacks at BYU because you don't like them. And this guy's like, oh, ad hominem attacks, huh? You're the one here calling people woke and left wing. I was like, are woke and left wing ad hominem attacks?
Yeah.
And he like went through this whole mental gymnastic apologetic thing, explaining to me why left wing can be an ad hom attack.
No,
like, no, but aren't you left wing?
It's feelings.
They do it with right wing.
Yeah,
they need to refer to you.
They throw the word far with the right in there. You're far right. And you can see it, like NPR talks about Ron DeSantis.
And
far
Joe Rogan.
Right wing Ron DeSantis.
Joe Rogan,
We say
Joe
far
Rogan
left.
and Tim Pool.
Yeah.
You know?
So I want to
James
hit on
Lindsay.
that. So I've got a list of stuff. It's been a couple weeks. What's up, everybody? This is all of us for the first time together on the same spot, talking about everything we've been missing. I was out of town for a week, and I got like a list of stuff to talk about, but then I want to wrap it up going back to our lolcow of Larsen and Dehlin at the end. But I don't know if we should like fast hit some of this stuff or talk on each one of them. I thought more, because I mentioned talking more about Sam Harris and the BYU thing.
I just had an extremely depressing thought. It just struck me.
What's that?
Is that what is the most tragic and painful decline? Simpsons, Weezer, or John Larsen?
See, okay, so it's going to be different for me. It's going to be different for me.
Winner!
I never knew about John Larsen. I didn't listen to him much until now. So this is just what he is to me.
Oh yeah,
Weezer,
it's like coming into the MCU and seeing Thor with a fat belly and looking like the dude.
You didn't start watching.
Like, this is
you
Thor.
didn't start watching Avengers until Thor was fat.
Yeah.
Weezer, I never could connect with people on Weezer because all of my friends
they
were
were
like, Weezer,
so good. At
Weezer is amazing. They're amazing. You need to listen to them. And all I knew was Beverly Hills. And I was like, that song fucking
in the
blows.
late 80s, early 90s.
No, I know, they're great.
They Might Be Giants came out, and you were like, the future of music is bright. And
I went back and listened to them
Nirvana
since then, and they used to be great. And they've had some good stuff since then. But like, all I knew was Beverly Hills, so I was like, they're dog shit. Why is everybody wanting me to? I'm not gonna listen to another song. And so I gotta go with the Simpsons because I love the Simpsons.
I think Jared's younger than the rest of us, right? Because like, do you guys ever have the thing where you're talking to somebody about Star Wars: The Phantom Menace? And like, and there's just a disconnect, and then you realize, like, oh, you were born in 1992.
Yeah, I was 91. So
Now I understand. There is a generational gap there.
I was 8 years
Star
old when
Wars
the
wise.
Phantom Menace came out, so I thought it was the coolest shit ever.
Yeah, you were born right when the Weezer and the They Might Be Giants thing. A lot of people said that like they thought that's how the future music was going to go, and just like hair rock, which was my baby, got slammed out by Nirvana. So did They Might Be Giants and kind of that Weezer, kind of the QT intelligent rock stuff. It took like a back seat for another 10 years. And
see, I knew Beverly Hills, and then I remember reading an interview with Rivers Cuomo where he said, I'm doing less of the guitar. Somebody asked him, like, why aren't you playing guitar as much on tour anymore? And he said, well, because it was getting in the way. And I was like, fuck this guy. Why would I listen to their music?
The This Song Stinks guy, I mean, he covered the Weezer thing. I mean,
it was pretty great.
That's about all you ever need to know about.
That was actually kind of beautiful. Like, it was
Yeah.
funny. Like, being an hour-long shit on Weezer Fest, like, I felt like the ending really redeems it. And people should look that up. What's that guy's name? Pat Finnerty?
Pat Finnerty.
Yeah, what's the name of the channel? Is it not, there's not just This Song Stinks.
It's just Pat
I think
Finnerty,
it's Pat
right?
Finnerty. I think it's Pat Finnerty.
That's just his name.
But
he released a song today or yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
His fake emo band. That
Is it like officially out?
I clipped it into our last episode.
He made a fake meme band when he did the Machine Gun Kelly video called August is Falling. And he released
I'm so sad this summer.
Yeah.
I'm so
on
mad
a Saturday
this summer.
night.
Even on a
started this
Saturday
tangent,
night.
so I'm gonna bring us back because like I'm punchy and tired. So and I know there's so much to talk about. So let's focus on the list. But yeah, Weezer sucks, and so does John Larsen.
And he kind of mirrors the NPR fall too. I'd say
and
that's I'd say it's almost the same thing.
List.
Well, he's almost the same thing as NPR. Like it used to be good. It used to be informational. It used to be people just without kind of an axe to grind, giving you information.
So the thing is, we can put NPR and John Larsen just into the fell under the woke spell category, whereas Simpsons and Weezer, those are just different phenomena. They're just two cases of glory to garbage.
So Sam Harris starting out with this, and I've just got a couple clips. Everybody's probably already seen it already, but should we listen to the actual clip, or do we all just want to talk on it?
But doesn't matter
for the audience, I guess, unless we get a copyright strike.
Everybody should know it. No, there won't be a copyright from trigonometry.
At that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, right? It's like there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden. But even if whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China, it is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. It's like a firefly to the sun, right? I mean, like
I don't get how he does that measurement at all.
Mr. Science here.
At the beginning,
evidence doesn't matter.
In 2016, when the whole story was Trump is a crook, he's a liar, and he's a cheat. And at the beginning, I'm like, that plausible. Like,
sounds right.
I could see it. Yeah. It fits. It's everything I know about. Okay. And then I waited, and it's been more than 4 years now. And like
if he wasn't the most investigative guy on the planet.
Yeah. I think he is no person in history has had like more investigation brought against him, that there's been more motivation to find a criminal act on him. And they've got nothing.
If they hadn't done that, I'd be likely to still believe it more right now.
Yeah, like it shocks me. Like at this point, I think they would have found at least something, some tax thing that everybody gets down to or whatever. Mm-hmm. But and the other thing that makes me crazy is because I was, in 2016, I was like, investigate, due process, look into it.
And you notice
Meanwhile, imagine what if they did that to the Clinton Foundation?
He just started that sentence.
I want to see the Mueller report on the Clinton Foundation. I want to see.
He just started that sentence.
If the Clinton Foundation do with tens of millions of dollars from the Saudi royal family? What do the Saudis expect to happen when they give money to Hillary Clinton.
I just really like some of the charity work she's been doing.
Oh,
he started that sentence. If we went down the rabbit hole of Biden, you're like, wait,
oh my God,
that's what we did with Trump, based off of
we
fake
went down the rabbit
information
hole.
from the Christopher Steele stuff. We have real stuff here saying go investigate this, and nobody's going down that rabbit hole.
You know what we found? We went down the rabbit hole and we found rat shit. A bunch of rat shit at the bottom of the rabbit hole, which is exactly what you'd expect to find in a rabbit hole.
Yeah, like he fucked what was it? Like, he fucked Stormy Daniels. Ha ha ha. And he had a tiny penis. She told us. Like, well, yeah, he's a billionaire. Okay. Like, I wanna say that if I had like billions of dollars, I wouldn't cheat on my wife, and I would be like really awesome, and I wouldn't fuck porn stars. I want to say that, but I don't know that. It would be really, really hard not to.
I'm glad we're talking about this because, like, right before we came on, I was thinking about this because, like, just in my head, kind of puzzling it out. Because, like, as I see it, Joe Biden is a man of no morals, whereas Donald Trump is a man with morals, just very weak ones. But he believes what he believes, right? Like he's consistent in the weakness of his morals. Whereas Joe Biden he's
like a jack
totally
man,
amoral,
right?
Well,
like,
there's something I've thought from the start of Trump is like they say Trump only cares about himself, but it kind of lands in like that. You could say it that Randian territory of but himself means he cares about this country and he cares about this country doing it good. Whereas the Machiavellians on the other side will sell this country right down the river for anything.
And he wants to look really good, and the guy that wants to look really good when he's president will do so by at least attempting to do a good job.
He's an American real estate developer. American doing well is him doing well.
So I think my favorite part about this, though, this Sam Harris thing, is how he doesn't even realize how insane the thing he just said was. Because when the guy's like, hang on a second, man, let's back that up. I have a problem with something you said. He's like,
children's
like, oh, you're talking about the children, huh? You think that was a little much, huh? He's like, well,
you're talking about
no, like, yeah, I mean that was a little bit much, but you just told me the ends justify the means. Yeah, we did an evil thing, but it's a good thing because we did it against a guy we don't like.
You're talking
like,
about
oh, okay.
You're talking about kickbacks from China and possible blackmail information from China. That's what the whole freaking Trump Russian investigation was about.
Of which we have actual physical digital evidence of. It's not just an allegation. There is a physical laptop. The FBI confirmed it.
And we all said, yeah, look into that Trump shit. Oh, nothing? Even though you're going to hold on to it 4 or 5 years?
But we have like giant publications admitting that they hid the story.
I think I'm a Republican. And it's like, no, fuck the Republicans. Fuck them hard. But like, for hell's sake.
Yeah, if Trump did any of that stuff, burn him.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Just like you, and just like you said, Flip, I voted for the guy the first round. And when this stuff came up, I was like, investigate the guy. It's like, why don't we have that kind of like mentality anymore? Like where it's like, listen, okay, I voted for you. Now freaking do your job.
Because Biden's part of the
you know what I mean? And because I'm going to keep you on a short leash. And that's exactly how I felt the whole way. You know what I mean?
They're playing an unfair game. Because the right
repressive tolerance. This is titled repressive tolerance.
Yeah, exactly. They're playing an unfair game because the right believes in due process. The left says they believe in due process while they also believe that all of Western civilization, including English jurisprudence and everything that fell from it, is a white supremacist conspiracy to uphold white.
They believe in what Sam Harris is pumping here and has always been pumping. A consequentialism, a utilitarianism that he thinks that he's got the big galaxy brain to say that he can make what's the best for the most amount of people. And then he shows right there in this that he can't even weigh things out right in his head. And he thinks he's the one who's supposed to figure that out for the rest of us.
Because the other thing is like, because I know enough about history to know that you can't just lay everything at the feet of the president while they're there. That being said, like putting everything else aside, if I just look at the stuff that I've always cared about or paid attention to, foreign policy, economy, all that stuff, scandal, corruption, Donald Trump is the best president I've ever had. And I don't like saying that. I didn't vote for him.
This
You
is
know,
the
like,
only thing I could never
like
understand.
I said, I don't think he has good morals. I think he's a narcissistic piece of shit. I don't think he cares whose he hurts to get what he wants, and he's still the best president I've ever seen.
But part of the problem is that born yesterday thing. Like if you read Victor Davis Hansen's book, A Case for Trump, he goes down how much of dastardly shits every one of our presidents were. You know, and the part of the problem is like people were freaking about, oh my gosh, Trump. To me, I've always said that there's this aesthetic thing, and I think it's one of those reasons most Mormons suddenly turned on Trump too, is because there's something about him that just makes them go, oh, gross, you know. But he was not like his morals as far as like his personal life morals. No, he was not substantially worse than every other politician you've ever met.
Yeah, God damn it, exactly. Like we know. Like Bill Clinton went to Epstein's pedophile island 20 times
without Secret Service.
And whereas Donald Trump had consensual sex with a porn star.
JFK.
Which one is the bigger scandal?
JFK banged the entire White House. They point out that FDR would whip his dick out and show it to people in meetings to say, check out this honker.
From his wheelchair.
Where do you think Weinstein learned it from?
Yeah, Weinstein got fucked, man. Like he's a piece of shit.
Literally.
He's what's his like? How you gotta be like? How mad would you be if everyone around you is a mega piece of shit and you're also a mega piece of shit and you're the only one that gets busted for it? You're like, fuck, okay.
You're the
I guess I'll
sacrificial
go to
lamb, man.
prison. So,
he probably knew because he was a high school teacher.
That we don't know anything about happened, but we'll give Harvey the biggest benefit of the doubt and say that it was all casting couch, which is to say consensual, transactional. That's what
he knew he'd be the fall guy if it ever came down. That's how he got into that business. That's my guess.
I wonder.
I should clarify, Weinstein, not Weinstein. I feel bad.
See, because this is the thing I've thought about. I want to talk about this, but I also don't want to get off track. But I can't think of any off the top of my head because I just don't care about the celebrity gossip shit. But I know the list is out there of women that, like, if this is true that it was all consensual casting couch stuff, the list of actresses that can chalk up their careers to Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Is that? Like, do I care?
Like, I don't really feel bad for you if now you're a multimillionaire because one time you blew a guy.
I mean, that's things like, generally, because I've only ever been a big fat awkward guy. If I was a young, sexy woman with good diction and could, take direction and act, but and my ticket between nothing and millions of dollars in a career was to have sex once with a creepy fat old guy. For me, like, it's not a moral question.
To me,
it's one of those things you want to say you'd be strong, but who knows?
I was mixing up Epstein and Weinstein.
It's not a moral question. Oh, yeah. You're talking. You're going to have to Weinstein and Epstein. Okay.
But the Weinstein
Epstein was something else.
The Weinstein thing there, he definitely, because he paid off his own stuff being the top guy of the company. But the true people who were hurt in that whole entire thing was every single woman who ever said no, and we never learned her name. She didn't get a role.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. See, now are all the women who had consensual sense with Weinstein in order to get their careers, do they owe that? Imagine the apology. Should they come out and say, like, I'm sorry that I took unfair advantage of the situation?
We could have had a completely different Pepper Potts.
I don't know. Like, this is a tough one for me because, like, I have never used the services of a prostitute. I can't imagine that I ever will. But like I just kind of have this thing where it's like, as long as it's consensual, informed consent, and transactional, okay.
Well, I mean, it's moral versus legal. I'd say that maybe.
Yeah, that too.
It's definitely immoral to say, "Hey, blow me," and you get to,
I don't know. Here's the
thing, get to be Gwyneth Paltrow, but
yeah.
Well, I mean, and this is a genuine question. I'm glad you brought up Gwyneth Paltrow because you finally brought up a name because I literally didn't have it in my head.
Yeah, she's like.
I'm glad you brought up Gwyneth Paltrow because it answers my question. In one of these cases, is having sex with a dirty old fat movie mogul the worst thing they ever did in their career? You answered my question, Gwyneth Paltrow. No, it turns out no. She ended up turning her, acting money into a gigantic scam that she just milks money off of people by selling them magic potions.
Yeah.
So
and now,
yeah,
and
like,
now
frankly,
Weinstein
like,
has a
giving a fat old slob a blowjob is probably an act of charity next to everything else she's done.
So
I mixed up the president. It was Lyndon B. Johnson. I said FDR. And
Jumbo. Man,
he
we're
used to,
slandering so many people today. We are just
he used to whip it out at meetings to intimidate the foreign.
Is that why we call it Johnson now?
Yeah.
Could be.
So I was gonna have to. So due to the recent Sam Harris events, I have to walk back my stance on Sam Harris, because before I've said this a couple times, I think, on this channel, that I don't like Sam Harris that much, but I think that this moral subjectivity is a bad thing. I think I don't like that that's growing. And Sam Harris is trying to make a secular case for moral objectivity. I don't think he does a good job of it, but I'm glad that he's trying. And now I'm no longer glad. That's what I will say about that. Because now I'm like, no, please just go be morally subjective like everybody else, because your version of objective morality is insane. And it's not objective is really the thing. He's just saying, well, it's that this thing is moral to do if it's, against Trump.
Are you ready for this?
For instance, I've said on several occasions that I think Donald Trump is a worse person than Osama bin Laden. The statement is obviously meant to get your attention. I get that it's surprising, but it's not meant to be hyperbolic. I can defend every word of a statement like that. What I can't defend are people's misunderstandings
or
and erroneous
misunderstanding
extrapolations of a statement like that. Perhaps I should just clarify that statement again, because it actually goes a long way to explaining my view of Trump, why I think he's such a terrible person, but not.
It's the same. He came out on Twitter and tried to explain his comments in trigonometry, and his explanation just redoubled down on it. And that's what he constantly does. Like right here, he just redoubles down on, like, yes, he is a worse person than bin Laden.
Not nearly as scary as some people think he is, and not nearly as scary as many people think I think he is. I think Osama bin Laden was a more or less normal human being, psychologically. He was just living in the grip of a dangerous and idiotic worldview. The moral structure he imagined he was living under and wanted to impose on the rest of the world, given his beliefs, was despicable. So he created immense harm, and it's very good that we killed him. But within the framework of his odious beliefs, he demonstrated many virtues. He was a man who certainly seemed to be capable of real self-sacrifice, and he was committed to ideals beyond his narrow self-interest. He was, by all accounts,
Maybe that's an argument against your big cultural idealism, and maybe that's a Randian argument right there.
So all I heard was Osama bin Laden. Trump is worse than Osama bin Laden. Also, it's good that we killed Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
also, what
he keeps going with that.
What beliefs? Okay. Osama bin Laden was a Salafist Wahhabi Muslim. You can go on Wikipedia. I've done it. You can read for a long time about what that means. That's a set of beliefs. What Donald Trump beliefs are you talking about, Sam Harris?
Yeah.
Never going to get an answer.
I'm just glad Sam Harris doesn't have an idiotic
This is one of the things I don't understand. Like, this idea we're just supposed to assume. Like, it's just taken as a fact of life. Oh no, well, Donald Trump, he's all these things. He's a Nazi and a fascist and a white supremacist and all this stuff. Based on what?
Well, one of the
only
things
piece of evidence they've ever put forward is the Fine People hoax, which is not just a lie. It is a reversal of reality.
Yes.
One of the things. One of the things that Consensual saying in that trigonometry one that I passed up is that he says just Trump University alone is worse than all this other stuff. And they go, let me think. Can I think of any university? Is there any university that's bilked people out of money? Can I think of that at all? I'm trying to think of. It is. Oh man, that's singular to Trump. Trump's bad. Let's get rid of Trump. Kill him.
Anyway, I got a class to teach.
Yeah.
Literally the first.
I don't claim to know that much about him, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was generally a person of real integrity and generosity and compassion in his dealings with his fellow Muslims. None of these things.
Can you? I mean, I don't. If I could ask Sam Harris a question, who was the last president who, in your opinion, had integrity? Whatever that list of adjectives he just used. What was the last one? I genuinely want to know that.
And there's other things about
that's like kind of a lip service thing that everybody says. They sort of take as granted that, oh, we all know that all politicians are corrupt, but they don't actually believe it when it comes down to it, because then they come up to Trump, who's an asshole, and they're like, oh, we don't like him, he's corrupt, and then it shows that they don't actually believe that the past presidents were that corrupt.
No, whereas I think
we like Bush more now because he was nice.
The Democrats are suddenly concerned that the person who sits in the office of president doesn't have a history of treating women badly. Like, and again, the world started yesterday. Think of.
Can I tell you like how many like fake pieces I saw of people saying, "Let me rethink Bill Clinton." Like now.
Jared, asking Jared, since Jared's the baby, because he was just a baby during that time. Do you know about the blue dress? Does that mean anything to you?
The Monica Lewinsky thing?
Yeah. So what was the importance of the blue dress? This is like one of those tests, like asking people, like, do you know who Trofim Lysenko is? Like, there's a reason why you don't know this, but why is the blue dress still a thing we talk about?
Why is it because they got come on the blue dress or something?
It is. And why is that critical?
Like the fact that it's blue?
It's the blue dress is a big fucking deal because the allegation came out. Bill Clinton's administration started the whole machine turning, got journalists involved, and for 24 hours had already started the news cycle of Mana Lewinsky is a deranged stalker and she's lying.
Which he's done with all the other women. All the other women
came right out and just slammed that down. Now that part of the history is just kind of blocked off. The part where Bill Clinton and his entire administration and the fucking left-wing media set about slandering and smearing Monica Lewinsky,
which they would do again and again. And guess who did all that? Guess who was like the head of his PR campaign? It was George Stephanopoulos, the guy who's the head of CBS freaking News.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, the blue dress was the smoking gun with the fingerprint and the DNA and the glove fit and everything else. Where and it just put it to bed immediately.
And he'd been doing that to years for other women who complained about him.
Arkansas. And that's one of the things where, like, it's just that pass. It's that pass that Bill Clinton and the Democrats, and by extension the entire left, get of that time. They set about to destroy the life of Monica Lewinsky because she told the truth.
And if you want a real mind trip, watch the Hulu show of I guess it was on FX originally, Real Crime, of the Monica Lewinsky story, and how they blame the whole thing is Linda Tripp's fault. Linda Tripp for exposing it is the evil devil. Like, if you want to watch some victim like blaming type stuff, like, I'm dead serious. Watch that Hulu show. It's on Hulu, and the entire thing is about Linda Tripp's her obsessive, pissed off anger at Clinton and wanting to expose Clinton, and Linda Tripp is a crazy evil bitch.
Where the fuck are the Foucauldians talking about power dynamics here between the most powerful man in the world and a 20-year-old?
Anybody
intern?
watch that series and tell me I'm lying?
I'm laughing so hard because do you guys remember who SNL had play Linda Tripp?
Oh yeah, John Goodman.
It was John Goodman.
The whole entire thing came out. The lady who exposed it all. It's about her being crazy, which is what they did.
And she was the super feminist. She should be a feminist hero. She was the person who talked the victim into coming forward and said, "No, you have the proof. You have the."
It's her. It was just her axe to grind, and the lawyers who were far right lawyers, their axe to grind to get Clinton on lying on this stuff. Anyway, I don't know why.
Get the picture of Linda Tripp and that the transgender health admiral. Put them together for me.
That's pretty close. That's pretty close.
Like just going purely off of memory. I want to see.
So part of the entire thing with Trump, because I initially was like everybody else, like, man, we elected Trump. What the hell are we doing? And I thought it was kind of like a circus act in the sense of like he was a baboon. I didn't, but when people started acting like it was extra supersonic, super extra evil morally,
the literal
like,
Nazi talk.
Where have you been living?
He's a
Where
literal
the
Nazi.
hell
That's
have you been living?
I think people genuinely said about he's a literal Nazi. Like I drove for Lyft sometimes, and I picked up this kid at the university, and he like came in the car and he was like taking his headphones off. He says, "I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just listening to a podcast." I'm like, "Oh, what are you listening to?" He's like, "Oh, a thing about Donald Trump." And I'm like, "Oh, what are they saying?" He's like, "Oh, he's a racist." And I'm like, "I don't think he's a racist." He's like, "You don't think he's a racist?" I said, "I think he's a narcissist, and I think he doesn't care who he hurts, but I think it's obvious that he's not a racist." And he said, "What about the Muslim ban?" And I said, "Islam isn't a religion." He said, "Well, they're mostly brown." I said, "Well, kind of not really." And he said, "Well, they're mostly Arab." And I'm like, "No, definitely not." And it's like, just that.
And that ban, it was countries that the Obama administration had picked out themselves.
Exactly,
and said and there was plenty of Muslim countries that weren't banned.
And it's just like, how, and like,
but the official story
how
was
do you
always
make
like
that connection?
Like they have to be the more brown countries. Okay, we'll do this. Countries are a little bit. It's just brown enough that we'll ban it, but this one just teeters right. There's enough white people that they can come.
Well, we've gone down.
That's the impression I got from watching the news.
So we've gone down the Charlottesville hoax funnel from Scott Adams on here once before, but then there was the whole thing, and this is not something to jag off into right now because we could go off on this for a while. We've done it privately, but one of the other major things they point to is that he was on the wrong side of the Central Park Five, and I hate to tell you, world, Trump is on the right side of the Central Park Five.
Absolutely. Oh no, Jared left. I wanted to ask his opinion on something. I have to wait.
You know who I almost voted for?
Who's that?
This is a good one to just. I started getting, because I was getting disenchanted with all the Trump stuff, but then Evan McMullen comes rolling around.
Oh yeah,
you remember him?
Yeah, he's a
Mormon guy.
He's trying to run for some sort of Senate.
Yeah, he's trying to do it. Yeah, exactly. And
in Utah?
Like, he I don't know.
He's running against Mike Lee or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But Evan McMullen, he comes out and he's like saying all this good stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, I kind of like what you're saying. I kind of like what you're saying, and it's not as brash as Trump, But then I kept looking at it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, this guy was like straight CIA. You know what I mean? And I was like, nah, I'll go with Trump.
The man Donald Trump is just a perfectly odious person, like just genuinely. Like I don't know. I tried to look it up again.
Yeah, I don't love Trump.
There's a clip of Penn Jillette on Joe Rogan talking about Trump, and I don't know. I got to find it. I haven't seen it.
But here's one of the other things too about Trump, and a lot of people pointed out. Look at how Trump's kids treat and think about him, and look at how Biden's kids treat and think about him. And I'm sorry, there's something there that if you're talking about who feigns being nice to the world and who actually does have family.
How many employees of Trump have they had come out and like run him through the mud?
Jeez, that's a really good point. Because again,
he's employed a lot of people.
Motivation. Yeah, there's huge motivation to get dirt on him.
Every time I've heard somebody talk about him as an employer, it's always been positive, unless it's somebody he's fired. But I mean,
Mike Lee's Evan McMullen's running against Mike Lee.
I was gonna say there's a really great clip of Penn Jillette on Joe Rogan where Penn Jillette talks about Trump, and I like it because it's like the only example I've ever seen of somebody who spent any amount of time with the man talking about him, and there is no detectable bias. And it's very interesting. I love that part of it. But what I was going to add is that I think he's a perfectly odious man. I don't like him. I do like the part where he is not part of the political machine and has never been part of the political machine and has nothing but disdain for the political machine. That's the thing I think that's the part of it that worked. When I try to explain that paradox of, despite me having, I don't think he's a smart man. I don't think he's a good man. And yet his presidency was, as far as I can tell, the best presidency of my lifetime. And if I can, like, maybe correlation isn't causation, but if I can chalk it up to anything,
we
it's
all,
that part
everybody
where
in the
he's
world
not in
agrees that's
system.
not a high bar.
Yeah.
A good president isn't
Exactly.
some high bar to jump.
Yeah,
That's true.
but like,
Everybody,
I think
everybody
the part that
thinks
worked
they
is that he
agree
wouldn't
that.
play along. You know, like he absolutely would not go along with the system, because you know that's the thing that my entire life, Democrats and Republicans, their only criticism of their own party is to say, oh, they're too center. They go along with the other guys too often. You know.
Mhm. What were you going to ask Jared?
Oh, because like, so I'm drinking wine. And I'm muting because I'm belching a lot, but Kevin's muting a lot. Do you guys think it's because he's farting? Oh, there.
I've got the Chris Hanna demon.
Oh,
I've
And every time I set my
this is
God.
probably
drink down, it
not
Chris,
that it's any
Chris has
better.
complained about this before in podcasts, but like every time I set my drink
clink.
down, it
no,
just
it'll do a huge rumble roll. but
Yeah,
I
it
haven't
rumbles
heard it tonight.
it rumbles the desk on it.
But I
Do
should
it.
get
Do
better.
it on
If I
purpose.
No,
mic
it's
my
my
coughs
boom. It's
better,
my
I'd
boom,
have to
'cause
edit
it's-
less of them out.
do
my
it.
boom's
Do a
connected to the
do a
the
Coke
desk.
rumble right now for us.
Anyway, one of the last things I wanted to point out about the Sam Harris thing is that the whole entire Peterson Sam Harris thing was about what's more important in this world, empirical truth or pragmatic truth. And Sam Harris just made the argument for Jordan Peterson. Well done, Sam Harris. You just gave it away, dude. You just said practical truth beats empirical truth.
Jesus, I never. Put
Jordan
that together.
Peterson wins 4 years later. Ding, ding,
This is
ding.
what we need Chris for. Chris makes these connections that like they were there all along, and I was like, God damn it! Oh yeah, that's right. He totally just contradicted 15 years of Sam Harris.
And 4 years and 2 days of 6, 7, 8, 9 hours of debate with Peterson.
Is that the power? Like, because that's like this is the thing that makes me crazy. Like, I think about because I'm not a regular Sam Harris consumer, not by a long shot. I read End of Faith way back when it came out. I listened to some of his podcasts, but there's a couple. Like, there's a 15-minute clip on YouTube that he did called "Why I Don't Criticize Israel," and I've listened to that like half a dozen times. I've listened to his one where he reads the ISIS magazine, Why We Hate You, Why We Fight You. I've listened to that half a dozen times. And I listened to that one, the On the Precipice, the one he put out after.
That one
George
was
Floyd.
very good. That
You
was
know,
a
and like,
very
and I
good
listen to these,
one.
and like, the reason I listen to them over and over again is part is like, I just almost like church-like. I just like that reassurance that there was a voice out there saying, no, data matters.
And him stopping and talking
Facts
about the
still matter.
data, him
You
being
know?
brave enough to talk to Charles Murray about empiricism mattering over everybody's feels.
Yeah,
and now here he just poops it all down the drain when
like
he gets
talking
Trump
about
derangement
Israel,
syndrome.
where he's like, you know, when he talks about Israel, it's like it's the easiest thing in the world to indict Israel, but we have to put this in perspective. And,
Yeah.
You know, like, and like, yeah, but then like, and to compare that voice to what we have now, it's the third season of Simpsons versus the 23rd season of Simpsons. It's the Blue Album versus whatever shit came out latest, and
Hurley.
it's the middle band of Mormon expression John Larsen versus now. Just
Yep. Then they all
Yeah.
the ultimate thing of it is they all ultimately end up going back on their principles. And that's the whole thing that was my biggest gripe of what went wrong with the left and Trump is that you gave up all your principles to fight the monster. You gave into the Nietzschean thing that don't become a monster to fight a monster. Don't give in to doing endless fishing expeditions to find a crime rather than just when a crime happens, you know, going after the crime. You guys gave in to, you became the monsters to get the monster. And Sam Harris tries to justify
at the risk, because like at the risk of humble brag or whatever, I have for a long time I have not voted, and I'm not voting. And when people ask me, it's out of principle. Like at this point, like even if I agree with you as a candidate, if you are willing to affiliate with Democrats or Republicans, you're out. For me, just on my principles, because like your parties are totally corrupt and are intellectually and morally bankrupt.
Yeah.
And then all the other candidates are just too wacky for me, you know? And the other thing is that like, you know, like I'm a fundamentalist when it comes to American civics, because I remember when I learned civics, and I learned that we live in a representative republic and you vote for the people who represent you. As soon as that person runs, my vote is theirs. I'm just waiting.
Man. Well, I mean, I was just listening to Larsen before this podcast talking about, he's just released a new one about global warming, and then he had this other one about abortion. And the guy's so convinced that the answer to everything is the nanny state running everything for us. And that's my second thing of beyond asking, like, wait a minute, Trump's the first idiot? You guys didn't see all the other idiots? And then the same thing I say to Larsen is, they're not the answer, goof. Like they're not going to nanny state us into anything. They're not going to.
So when I listened to John Larsen, I got the same reaction as you did, because when we listened to his thing talking about atheism, you just kept stopping it and you kept saying, you got these 2005 atheists arguing, you're not bringing anything new to the table. I got the same thing when I listened to him talk about the abortion thing.
Yeah.
Like dude, these aren't like unique takes you have, and they're not very good takes. It's always like, if you're not willing to fund every second of a person's life,
it was all about funding
make
everything.
it illegal to kill them. Like that's what you're saying, because I think
you
these
didn't fund
people
the birth.
understand.
You didn't fund the school. You didn't fund the food. You didn't fund the you devils. You didn't fund it all. And
I think what they don't understand is that, and this is a bad thing to not understand, if you're going, if you're a pro-choicer who wants to argue against pro-lifers, the best thing to do is understand their position and not straw man it. And the straw man of the pro-life position is to say, you want to control women's bodies. And
of course,
and
he
that's
said that.
not it. That's just, there might be some people out there that are like, yeah, I just want to control women's bodies. But for the most part, they think that's a person. They think that a fetus is a person and that it shouldn't be killed. And so what you're saying is that, like, if you, like, because we make it illegal to kill a person at every other stage in their life. And nobody uses that argument that, like, well, you're not going to fund their life if I don't kill them for any other stage in their life. They only use that for, the duration of gestation.
Well,
and he doesn't get that, so he uses worthless arguments.
For me, there's this religious level of stereotyping presupposition about this thing about, like, oh, you want to control women. There are decades of data on polls on this question. This is something that we have, like, more data than on most things about public opinion. And all those Midwestern grandmothers want to control women. All those Mexican immigrants just want to keep women in the kitchen. Like it's one of those things where it's like, you have to deny reality to believe that. It's one of those things. It's one of those things that's not, like, readily apparent, like that the earth is a sphere. No, it is readily apparent that pro-lifers don't just want to control women. That is readily apparent.
There's a second level of it. It's just the sour stuff of incentives matter. Incentives, part of the argument from the right side is, if that stuff ever happens, especially if we had, like, a low welfare state, they'd get taken care of. There'd be money and people around who cared enough to take care of the people. That's just how society will go. But there's a level of, we were just talking about the $10,000 forgiveness stuff for the colleges. Well, guess what just went up $10,000, the price of college. There's those incentives matter. Like if
well, it's like seeing all those memes of when they gave you the one of the stimulus checks was like $700, and then you go to Walmart and you can take pictures of all the new flat screens that are exactly $680 or some shit like that.
And if you have a society that says, women, go have all the babies, we'll take care of you all the way through for all of it, you're incentivizing it. That's all there is to it.
Well, notice that
my dumb luck. My dumb luck is that I finished a cycle of unemployment literally the week before COVID hit.
Ugh.
And so, like, I scrimped and scraped by for 6 months on meager old-fashioned unemployment. And then for the next year, all of my friends are telling me I have never made more money than I'm making now, and I'm at home.
They bumped the unemployment rate up to $25 an hour.
And and I was just out there grinding it out because, like, I had no choice. I had to get out and work.
Did you notice what happened a week before the announcement of the loan forgiveness came out?
Oh.
All these IRS agents packing heat and all this stuff. It's
it's
like the week before they announced this. That's like,
yeah.
And then you see all this diverse representation in these leaked photos of the you know,
they made an announcement that the Fed is now run by a diverse group of people.
That's part of the reason that you guys all need to go watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, is because the first glimpse of evil you see is through a tax auditor, and most of the movie takes place in an IRS building.
Well, I've seen evil, and do you want to know what that evil is? I heard somebody said a racial thing at a BYU volleyball.
They made a racism.
I saw that on the news. Oh wait, here it is. Here, we gotta do better.
Let's do better.
Everybody
do better.
Do
Gotta do better, Senator.
Okay, maybe I'm overly cynical. Maybe I'm.
This is a witchcraft.
Where
This is a
I'm
witch hunt.
knee-jerking. I'm knee-jerking too quickly. But how fast did you guys say bullshit?
Yeah,
I said bullshit
absolutely.
in about 3 seconds.
Yeah, that was we talked about it, and me and Flip in real time are going back and forth like, okay, but there's videos, right? And then we were like, no, there's no videos, and we're
the
like,
article
well,
in
then
the
it has to
news
be bullshit.
The article in the news goes like this. Like, I mean, there's more to it with this, but these points are in there. The player from Duke claims someone in the crowd shouted a racial slur every time she served. Next paragraph. 5,000 people are in attendance. Record attendance for BYU volleyball.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite apologetics around that on the ex-Mormon subreddit that I found was, well, they would, because I said that, I made a post like there were 5,000 people there. How would there possibly not be a single video of this? Because if I hear a guy shouting the N-word every now and then, you know I'm going to pull out my phone like, this is hilarious. This racist
people.
Jackass. You would have like at least 100 videos of this from different angles. And they're all like, well, maybe they're too afraid of being punished by BYU. No, BYU they're fucking cowards. They immediately banned some random guy and said, yeah, we condemn this thing that we're positive happened, even though there's no fucking evidence.
Now, here's the thing, because you think about this, because like, I would think if I was BYU's PR department, I would come out and say, police are investigating. We're awaiting to see what the report shows. We'll have a comment for you when that's done. My stab in the dark, don't know. I have no personal information. I don't know how anything works. But I'm guessing that there's a whole chain of people in BYU's PR department that are just fucking wokies. And
what? That can't be true. Look at
so
this.
I have a new
this
coworker who got a master's degree in poetry and a bachelor's from BYU in the last decade.
This is Michigan's DEI department alone. 126 of them. They got. You got to give them some work to do. Like, you can't just come out and apologize. They needed to have like all 126 of these people at each university needed to have some work to do for a day. They could have investigated it deeply. No, you're right. Yeah.
I think if that decision had gone to the president before some PR apparatchik, it would have gone differently.
That's what. Well, because Jared pulled up the thing. Was that from Quick? Let's pull that up.
Am I using apparatchik correctly?
Yeah.
That's a word that's hard to understand.
Just an operator.
Well, but with the communist connotation of just
commissar,
like an administrator whose job it is to enforce. I was gonna make a joke about Mormonism, then I remembered Kevin was here.
Right? Kevin's pretty tender soul, so you
Kevin's
I got a thick skin.
He's tough.
Kevin likes the Mormonism, but like, bureaucracy irritates him.
I can zing you back though too.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like
ex-Mormons are a lot easier to make fun of than Mormons. So watch your
true. So you are a child of God, of the all-powerful creator of the universe, and I'm gonna hurt your feelings? Like, it's one of those paradoxes. Like, when Muslims get mad when you insult Allah, it's like, what is Allah, a baby? Like, is he just a little toddler on the playground? You can't call him names? Come on.
Allah doesn't give a shit.
Allah.
Well, you can't draw him.
No, that's Muhammad,
if you draw him. Oh, whoops, that's you can't You can't
God
draw
isn't a
Allah?
person.
They won't get mad if you draw Allah?
You can't.
gotta
No,
get mad at that.
no, by definition, you can't draw Allah. Tawheed.
And you can't draw Muhammad
If you
either,
see
right?
Muslims making this sign, this is the sign of Tawheed. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It means the oneness. And it talks about the oneness. Like Allah is not a person. Allah doesn't have a body. Allah isn't a... We call him a him, but all this other stuff. Like, no, Allah is... It's kind of a pantheism, but all extremely focused into this one little thing. I don't know if I'm describing that well. But Tawheed, let me look up the word. It's one of the pillars of Islam. It's central to how they view God and why they view Christians and Muslims. Like, because Christians and Muslims think that God is a man, that is blasphemy to Islam. Damn it,
Well,
badly.
I never know because I draw them each so much, and I never know which painting I can.
I'm always drawing them.
I never know which painting I can put out or not. I'm like, wait, this is Allah and Muhammad. That's probably a no, but my one over there of Muhammad, but not Allah. I don't know.
Not going to go after a student athlete.
Which God am
so
I
what do you do at
insulting
this
today?
point?
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would have done a lot of things differently to begin with. But at this point, we were actually sent more messages today from people in the athletic department that they apparently feel pretty good about the position that they're in because they banned the person Duke told us to ban. So in terms of PR stuff, they feel comfortable with where they are right now, even though all of these revelations are coming out. And I think it just goes to show, because people often say, oh, BYU is super conservative. You have all the power at BYU. What in the world are you guys complaining about? Stop being such babies. Deal with having other ideas at BYU.
Did I ever tell you my second undergraduate degree? My second undergraduate degree is in public relations. I don't know how it happened, but like I made the joke before, like when you find the corpse of the American body and there's 2 little fang holes in it, that's going to be the 2 little things that I went to college for, which is, critical theory stuff and PR stuff. And I'm like, how did I end up right there? Like, I didn't mean to do that. Like,
that's Chris
Killed
Hanna,
America, you son of a bitch.
This is why I'm Charlie Brown. This is why I named my dog Charlie Brown, because I'm trying to divert some of the bad luck onto the dog. He's my scape dog. But
are you guys getting wicked church flashbacks from the room Luke Hansen is in, with the carpet halfway up with the wood across?
Oh yeah.
So if you lean back in your chair, you don't scuff the wall.
Yeah,
I was an adult before I realized, like, why do they have the horrible scratchy carpet? Yeah, like, why do they have the horrible scratchy carpet halfway up the walls? Oh, because you get bored and lean back. Because I did that constantly.
So public relations is part of the risk aversion that makes everybody useless. It might as well be just as bad as an actual critical theorist in your midst.
So, like, I went on to Sistas of Zion and I posted the KSR that said, I posted the KSR article that said, police have investigated. There is no evidence of this happening. And I said, I await your apology. Obviously, it'll never come. And we know an apology will never come. And why is that?
Not only for years to come, 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, somebody's going to be giving me a gish gallop of all the ways BYU is racist. And this moment's going to be part of it. People yelling the N-word at volleyball games. It's going to...
And here's it. Everybody's assuming it's N-word, right? We're just assuming that because, like, nobody's even
godmother
said N-word.
So
the godmother said that.
She
before it was even announced.
So godmother in another state tweeted
who was running for office. She's running for office as a judge.
It didn't happen. See, like, and like, there's just so many things about this where it's like, no, like, even like, if I give all the benefit of the doubt that that Utah County is full of people that bear some kind of deep-seated ill will racism, nobody yells out N-word at a volleyball game. No. Like, like all of the African Americans I know from my life who live in Utah County flashed through my eyes. Like, no, it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
It did not happen. And in this world nowadays, right now, especially, it's not going to be going on. I mean, nobody's going to dare do that in front of other people. And if they did do that, the first people that would be on them, like white Mormons on rice, they would have turned on him in a split second in that.
And then crowd, the other great irony is, if you go on the Sisters in Zion post about it, it's just a bunch of people saying, shut up, white person, in different ways.
Yeah.
So the Sisters in Zion page weirds me out because aren't they like supposedly coming from like a place of we're believing members of the church?
Yeah, but it's like
At
like
this
all
point,
church-
I think that
not.
John Dehlin believes in Mormonism more than the Sisters in Zion. I think
No,
John
I'm
Dehlin
with
is
you
a
there.
self-interested jackass. I think the Sisters in Zion are
it goes
Marxist,
right
entryist,
along with
communist,
No,
with
I'm
communist
almost
ways.
all
Like-
these entryists. All of them are staying in and doing what John Larsen begged that they would do, is stay in and try to change it from within, even though you do
Bunch
not
of Salt
believe
Lake
it
City
all.
punks.
Like,
Yeah,
like
SLC
just take
punk
what
is
you know
good.
from the Sisters of Zion, go on their Facebook page, look at what they do, and I mean, like this is like, okay, Sisters of Zion, you're in charge. Make the Mormonism you want to see.
Who
What's
believes
left?
more?
How much you want to bet it's just woke doctrine, and we can just go ahead and dispense with literally everything else?
Who believes more, Dan Maclellan or Sisters of Zion? We
Oh,
should like make
man.
like a we should make like a bracket race, who actually believes more.
I'm gonna have to.
Jackson
I'm gonna have to
Washburn
side with
versus-
Sisters of Zion on that one.
You think so?
I don't know. I'm not as familiar with them, but he's got like 7 TikToks arguing in favor of abortion.
Oh my gosh.
Dan Maclellan?
Yeah,
Well,
dude. He's
several. I don't know
every
about
single
7.
thing that he he does. He has multiple. Every single thing he does is just basic bitch Democrat left him because he's running as a Democratic candidate, justifying it through scripture in some sort of way. And it's outrageous and it's unbelievable that he even goes around trying to declare himself as any sort of Mormon.
I'm happy. I'm happy.
I'm gonna run
that
the
they're,
rest of
like-
them. Keep talking.
Oh, I'm happy that there are Mormon politicians who are being exposed as being dipshits. You know what I mean? Because now it's like people don't just vote for just, oh, he's a Mormon, so I'm going to vote for him now. And I think a lot of people did that for like Mitt Romney. And I mean, I even admitted that I had some of that inkling with Evan McMullen, but like, nah.
Is Evan McMullen a dipshit? I don't know much about him.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
I
know he's like a big CIA guy or something.
Yeah, that's the thing that I just don't trust him at all.
It's hard to trust that.
Oh yeah, it really is. There's more to him than that too.
I don't like absolutes and all this stuff. Like I don't like. I don't want it to sound like I have these hard dichotomies, but like in everything in my life, there's like this. For me, there's this paradox of the things that make people want to go into politics are the reasons why they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's it's not an original thought by any means. And things like a lot of people, like I used to think that about police though, and I don't anymore necessarily. Like I used to have that kind of stereotypical, like, oh, they're just bullies and they want to tell people.
Yeah.
But I worked with police enough to know, like, no, they're mostly just Boy Scouts
or
like
psychologists.
they literally just want to help.
That person exists,
Yeah.
but they don't.
Oh no, yeah, no. That the people
it's
that go
all of
into
them.
policing to be bullies are real, but my experience is the vast majority of police are Boy Scouts.
But with your
they want to
politicians-
catch bad guys and they want to help old ladies across the street.
See,
Like,
but with your
my experience
politician
with
thing, that
police was
makes
like,
sense.
they wish they could catch bad guys, and they wish they didn't spend as much time, explaining to homeless people that they need to leave the train platform.
So the politician thing, I would say, makes perfect sense because, like, if there's something that I could label as an eternal truth, it would be that, right? Because if, like, as far back as we have been telling stories, we've been glorifying the archetype of the reluctant king.
Oh yeah,
Right? That's all. Like, I mean, Jon Snow is a good example. He didn't really want to be king, but he's
Never
your
saw it.
character.
Yeah.
Well, don't bother now because it sucked ass in the end. So
real life example, fun real life example. Although, granted, I read a history book that was written about him 100 years ago. But Dom Pedro II, you probably heard of his name, Jared. In Gringo, that's Dom Pedro Segundo or Dom Pedro double I. But he was the last emperor of Brazil, and he was he was weirdly progressive for the 19th century. People or 20th century. 19th century. Sorry, I'm getting all my dates mixed up. But like he was a guy, like he was made emperor as a baby, one of those situations. But like when he came to power, he was an interesting guy. Like he was, Brazil was deeply Catholic, but he fought against the Vatican when they wanted to suppress Freemasons. He was all into like progressive stuff like literacy, and he came to Utah during Brigham Young times. No, Brigham Young might have been dead by then. But
Who is this?
We're talking about because we're talking about the reluctant king, and like there is like an example. I was gonna say there's an example like in history. Dom Pedro II is widely considered like slightly anomalous in this case of like, especially in the case like him, he became emperor of Brazil as an infant, but he was like weirdly progressive. Like, I mean, one example of like the way slavery ended Brazil. I mean, obviously things are very complicated, but the sort of simple story is the Golden Law, which was that like, so Dom Pedro II was the emperor, but he was sick. He had like pneumonia or something. And so he went to Italy to dry climate to recuperate. And he left his daughter in charge. And like, and you know, for political weird reasons, because he was the emperor, he couldn't do things, but his daughter, like the reactions were different. She just simply made a law. She just simply declared. And in Brazil, it's called the Golden Law or the Law of Gold, which says you can't own you're not allowed to own anybody. Slavery's done, and nobody owes you anything for any of it. You know,
wow,
like just, we're done.
Besides brackets of which active Mormon believes less, which we should do that bracket race. I should do another thing of like holding pools of like if I go to the bathroom, what subject you guys will end up on. That's pretty wild.
But before you get into these guys, I want to ask what you like. What are they going to say about the BYU Duke thing?
These guys?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Are they going to touch it
before that? Oh, of course they'll touch it. This is before that. This is like a week or so.
John Dehlin will try to turn this into another November 2015 policy that leads people away from the church, just like he did with Wilcox.
It's just more
going to be another massive exodus. They're going to be hemorrhaging members.
We already know they're out. We already know they're out. Their out is, even if this story was a hoax, it to draw attention to it because it's a thing. Yeah.
I love that phrase. Yeah. You said that, and I've just like, I had a flashback of a million different times I've heard people say, even if the story didn't really happen.
The Rolling Stone rape story, the rape on campus story from Rolling Stone, where that was their excuse. Like, well, I mean, stuff like
Cushion
this
Girl
does happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's like murders happen, so it's okay for me to accuse somebody and send them to the electric chair for it, because real murder does happen.
Okay, so I'm jumping up to minute 118 here, but little stuff I noticed first because I jot little things down. Little words he said are things like, if I'm wrong, I want to know about it, so let me know that I'm wrong, you guys.
Fuck off.
I jumped over that. He says, man, these lies are as bad as Trump's lies, because he always has to like slip that stuff in all the time. He says, whenever I read something, I make sure to go read everything the opposition says. He said that in there. No, you don't.
Like, ask me how I know you don't. Like, ask me how I know.
How do you? He said the word super nuance, and then he said Jesus is now about guns, and then he even slipped in something about this is like the Trump documents. Like he always slips in stuff about like current stuff.
We're all returned missionaries, right? We're all returned missionaries. So like we all probably ran into the experience where somebody tells you about something that happens in the temple that is just totally wacky, and that's one of those. Ask me how I know you don't know that. Like, ask me how I know you don't.
The balls. That was
check.
What I heard.
You know, like like with John Larsen, like I've read the opposition. Like, ask me how you don't know.
So, but that's
the worst arguments for your position. That's how I know that you never studied the opposition at all.
Well, there's that legendary clip of Christopher Hitchens on Sean Hannity where he says something like, I regret to have to say that you strike me as someone who has never examined the argument against what you're saying. Like, that's how I feel about John Larsen all the time now.
Yes, it's irritating. But all that stuff, that whole in the first hour and 18 minutes, he kind of stays on subject pretty good. But that's just me saying like how these guys play and act dumb to themselves from the very beginning. I've been talking about these guys try to claim we keep it neutral. And when they're trying to be neutral, that's the type of stuff they slip in all through, you know. So yeah, super, super, super welcoming for sure, John Dehlin. Your Mormon Stories, yeah, you play neutral, you play right down the road. But everything from here on out, I think it all kind of ties in actually to the other stuff we talked about. But there's a couple of goofy things too, and this will grand finale around these schniggleditzes once again.
Schniggleditzes, all right.
So this is just a couple weeks ago.
This is the most recent one with the
18th of August. What is today? The 1st of September?
Yeah.
What he
Because-
also could have done is been honest, like the church taught us to be. Like if I'm 12 and I touch myself, I'm taught I got to go tell the bishop every little detail. Care if you make out with the boy and you're 16, the bishop wants to know exactly what parts of your body got touched.
I just
and
thought of
what
a joke.
Kara, tell me.
No,
I just
no.
thought of a joke.
Like that's a thing that happens, but I don't think that's normal.
That's not taught. That's sort of the difference between
Yeah.
us. Is it, they
No,
always
yeah,
bring
exactly.
this
Like
shit up,
that's not
we're
an
taught when
instruction
we're young
bishops
that
get.
I have to tell, like, if you go to the bishop, you got to tell him how many fingers the guy put inside you. Like, no, those are piece of shit bishops, and those guys.
Yeah.
You
I
guys,
know enough
you guys
about
don't
life
even.
in the world to know
You
that
guys
those
don't
stories
even.
are true.
You don't even
Because it
realize.
happens, because it happens in fringe cases, it must have been taught by the system.
You guys don't even realize how you're about to get schooled, man. You don't even know.
I'm going to replace my genitals with the First Vision accounts, and so I'm allowed to touch them.
That's the comedy relief. But now comes.
Wait, I don't get it.
What? Yeah, I'm trying.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's
you can't get every joke. It was above your head, above your head, above your
It
head.
probably was. It was.
But
It's like
here
when,
it
it's like when
comes.
feminists put that GIF in the comment section of the point
Can
going
you
above
touch?
your head.
How do you touch Kevin? You're a faithful Mormon. How do you touch the First Vision accounts? Do you flick it like a clitoris?
I think that's what she was trying to say. But anyway,
Stop saving her joke for her. That was good on you.
I just accidentally did better joke than her.
stop it. I'm going to school you too. You guys listen, stop, listen, believe now.
That's awesome.
I'm going to tell teenagers. I'm going to tell teenagers just to do what the prophets did.
I'm going to poke.
complete
I'm
the
going to poke
point,
you in the ribs just a tiny bit, John. I want to show how deep indoctrination goes for all of us.
Yeah.
So you framed out your sexual sin in terms of a man, you touching yourself, and when you talked to Kara about it, you framed it out in terms of a man touching her.
Oh, get
I just think the patriarchy is deep.
Boom!
Critical theory. Double uppercut. Critical theory. And John Larsen is just gonna take it. He's just gonna be like, oh, look at you see his face right there, the perfect screen go. Oh yeah, you got me. I'm super sexist.
Critical theory, right in the noggin, right in the noggin. He blows it off. He acts like
He's
I
learning.
might not have
he's
understood
growing.
it, or he might have played like he didn't understand it.
Yeah. Well, I of course, Kara would never touch another man before her marriage, right, Kara?
I didn't.
She doesn't get that John Larsen just called him out, or he's playing it off.
I was a good girl.
You just got called a sexist, toxic masculinity, John Dehlin. Did you not notice?
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. All I know is my joke totally slayed because I just thought of my genitals as a journal, and that's just like flipping pages of time. I thought that was kind of a funny image for everyone to go.
Stop saying genitals.
Her joke slayed, dudes.
Her joke was slayed. I know it. I know her joke was hilarious because she told me it was hilarious.
Flip
And
punched
because
up
she's a
your
woman
joke.
and she said my vagina.
Flip punch your joke up. All right, here's some,
Yeah, no,
here's some little tilly bits.
we can
before
kill
get
it by
to
talking
this.
about all the other ways Kevin might touch the account of the First Vision. You know, introduce a finger.
Describe it. I'm gonna close my
Yeah.
eyes.
Do you use a massager on your accounts of the First Vision, Kevin?
Don't think so.
Wait. Oops.
I have to go talk to my bishop after I.
He'll ask you every detail.
Did you use your tongue on the account? Oh God, yes.
Listener,
Oh, get some
in all
forgiveness.
sincerity, go ask God if any of this stuff is true. But remember that God knows who you are, and God knows how to talk to you, and God knows what you would need to hear to believe in Him. So if God wants to tell you in a way that is not confusing, God absolutely can. And if God chooses not to, then that's an answer. Is there a God? I don't think so. But if there is, I'm open to her contacting me at any
Oh, fuck off. The corniest. There's a.
What
There's
if
a
you've known
fucking-
all along, John Larsen?
That was perfect because he just chewed out John Dehlin for like being sucked up into the patriarchy, and then just threw that out there without even making a face, like not even this is a joke or anything like that. Like
It comes back.
I
He
didn't
says
even
it again.
notice that I called God a woman.
Well, it
I'm
comes back.
so exempt from the patriarchy.
Yeah, you're guessing how it goes pretty well.
I think the opposite is actually true. I think I actually never really believed, and I kept trying and trying and trying and trying harder and trying harder. And with my personality, that meant I kept studying more, which means that's why I know all this stuff, because I kept trying to make it true. I don't know a lot about Mormonism because I hate Mormonism. I know a lot about Mormonism because I loved it and I wanted it to be true. And I wanted my family to be validated. And I wanted my people to be the right people. And I want to know there was a path and that the world was not ambiguous. But the fact is, the world is ambiguous. And if there's a God in charge, this is the way that she has made it. And if you've never heard from God, that's her choice. She is a divine being.
How do you know God's pronouns?
Well,
Like, I think what you're saying is that God is a woman. But how do you know that God's pronouns?
Are you
are
assuming
she, her?
God's gender?
You want me to answer? Yeah, he
How
answers.
part of your life was it that we called God him? Like when you thought about when you as a Mormon you thought about God, he's male. So what does that mean? He takes out the garbage and mows the lawn more often than not? Like what's the actual connection there? Because like I don't remember walking around going like, well, God's got a dick and so do I. Just didn't come up. It literally never entered my mind.
That's the caricature that they try to draw of the Christian man, is the guy that thinks I have the same genitals as God, and therefore I have God power. That's what they think that Mormon men are like, and it almost makes me think that that's what they were like as Mormon men, because the level of fucking projecting here is insane.
I think that there is something to look into. There is an interesting question there as to why is it that in the vast majority of cases, languages with grammatic with grammatic gender default to male often, like, because, the Romance languages, like, if it's 80 women and one man, you use the masculine plural pronouns, and like, why are most gods male? I think that there's something in evolutionary psychology that answers that. And like,
no,
and
it's
something
patriarchy.
There, but even if we just accept it, like, okay, it's because men, I still struggle to like draw all of this extra meaning from that. I don't see it. Like, I can't imagine that if I'd grown up and God was a woman, that I would feel any differently about my faith. I just can't. I don't see it.
That's because you're not seeing the ideological advantage that you could draw from seeing.
Why don't you learn from a modern day prophet right now?
Somebody pointed out that I switched genders on God. Let me explain what I just did.
I'm glad you didn't explain this. I didn't understand.
Listen to the.
Let me just tell you.
Turn on subtitles to make sure we understand.
Yeah, somebody mentioned
over here, right here.
Somebody in the like, neither John nor Kara brought it up, because John knew that if he brought it up, I'd call him out for being a victim of patriarchal thought again. Kara didn't bring it up because she clearly never fucking wants to be here anymore. But somebody in the comment section said something about God's gender, and I just wanted to take I wasn't going to explain it. To me, it's nothing, but let me explain it.
So this might be just shitty gossip, but Kara quit that show. Is she doing this because she needs the money?
She always comes back when John Larsen.
And that's not a problem. That's not a dig. I know it sounds like shit talking, but it's not a dig. But I wondered, like, she announced she was quitting the show.
Well,
and again, like, if this is your paycheck, God bless you. Keep doing it.
This is one of the roles where they know that these guys actually lean on John Dehlin for once, where they get extra views for their channels when they come on John Dehlin.
Wait, can we just?
He even mentions that John Larsen's channel only had like 50 subscribers until it got announced on this channel, and then he suddenly got 1,400 subscribers.
But if we look, I mean, because I've never actually bothered to look, but if we look at Mormon Stories podcast, is there a John Larsen bump? Is he a rated?
For them, no. Like, one of the things about it is, if I go talk to any ex-Mormons, like if you talk to Kevin like a little while back, or I talked to Cardin about it, they didn't know who John Larsen was until I started saying, you guys talk about, you guys know John Larsen, and no, they had no freaking clue. Like, he was.
Well,
he was
I barely had any idea who he was, and I left this. I got into the ex-Mormon community like 2014 or something like that. But that was about the time, and that's been almost 10 years now.
To Flip and I, at the start of the ex-Mormon podcasting race, it all started out, and John Larsen was the front runner. And John Dehlin was straggling his.
There was an episode of Mormon Stories that John Dehlin interviewed John Larsen, and John Dehlin starts out by basically bowing to
and groveling and showing up to his
and again, I don't mean that to say
event,
shitty,
saying,
like,
"How did you do this?"
It was true.
Yeah.
Like John Larsen absolutely ruled it.
Yeah.
And he did great work.
And if he didn't get a divorce and he didn't bow out, there's no reason not to believe that it wouldn't be the major one right now still.
I think so, yeah.
But
on the planet we live on, there is sexual reproduction, there's asexual reproduction. You have sexual reproduction, you have a male and a female is the thing that actually gives life, right? So when you're talking about the bastard asshole dick God, it is definitely a he, because only a he who would not have the creative power to create life that would reside in a female would claim that power. When you're talking about the real force that might be out there that could be identified as God, that's definitely a female.
This is like
I'm so confused.
This is dark.
Didn't he buy a ranch? He bought a ranch in Oregon, right? Is he engaging in any amount of animal husbandry? Do you know anything about biology, you dumb fuck?
Love is love, man.
He's talking about archetypes, man. This is dark fat. This is dark fat Jordan Peterson.
Really, all the males they just.
He's got the dark cloak, and it's the chubby version of him.
Fat Jordan Peterson.
He's talking about chaos and order. Only he's reversing.
You gotta check. You gotta be looking at your shadow, and I've seen mine, and it's not pretty, man. Like no.
There's all this stuff where they, if you do it in your impersonations, where the GQ lady and whoever came at Peterson saying, "You talk about women as if they're chaos and men as if they're order. How dare you do that?" And here's John McPeterson giving us men are destruction and terror and toxic and blue, and women are life.
Sweetums B. Peterson.
Thanks, Dark Peterson.
So insane. It's just so insane.
This is one of my problems with because somebody posted that She-Hulk thing in this big Facebook group. the She-Hulk thing where she's telling Bruce Banner, who has gone through just unbelievable amounts of suffering, that like she's like, I'm actually pretty good at controlling my anger. I get catcalled in the street. I get mansplained to. And you can almost sympathize with her up to that point. And the mansplaining thing is misguided in my book. Like it's not because you're a woman, it's because people are assholes. Then she says, I do it like I can control my anger because I do it infinitely more than you. And that's the part, that's the very part where feminism loses me, is that they make it a competition. Because I never try to make it a competition. I don't want, like, if I complain about an issue that might be unique to men, I don't then say, you women don't ever understand. It can't be possibly as bad as it is for you. Because if a woman came to me and said, look, I think these guys are trying to talk down to me because I'm a woman. I think that these guys are catcalling me, and that sucks. I would be sympathetic, and I'd be like, that sucks. Let's talk about it. And I mean, maybe you're wrong, maybe you're right, but let's talk about it. But then if she says, you'll never understand, my life is so much harder than you, I'm like, why is this a competition? I want good things for you. Why can't you want good things for me? So that's what he's doing. He's playing into this.
Because you ate the last peach.
So that's what he's doing. He's playing into this bullshit where he's trying to act like women are all better, which is exactly what like Mormon men do. They make women feel better by like shoehorning in like, oh, you guys are so much more spiritual than us. That's why you don't get the priesthood. Like, come up with a better explanation, because that's bullshit. You're shitting on men while bolstering women.
Part of Lindsay Hansen Park's public slander against me was to accuse me of, quote, believing that all my problems were women's fault. Like, she slung that at me as an accusation, and it's an allegation. It's not true, but the inverse of that happens to be the foundational claim of feminism.
Yeah, but you because you had one of your many issues is one time some individual was not nice to you.
I am mad at a woman. I blame a woman for a lot of my problems. She's one person. She has a name. She's just one person. She doesn't represent any class of anything except the person that I blame for my issues.
But there is a level of it all too, of like, listen, She-Hulk, I believe you that you got more angry at stubbing your toe than I did about breaking my leg. Like, I believe you. I believe you that you're more mad about that.
The memes are great around that, by the way. Like when she's like, I got catcalled, and he's like, my father beat my mother to death in front of me.
Yeah, I know. But that's just ultimately the truth is.
And I've heard that's pissing off a lot of fans because apparently She-Hulk is like a fan favorite in the comics. I'm not a big comic guy, but apparently she's very likable, very witty, funny, and kind of breaking the fourth wall like a Deadpool. And her entire origin story was totally fucked up by this series because like they didn't want her to be saved by Bruce, but her reality was she was saved by Bruce with a blood transfusion, and then she saved him later. But they didn't want her to be saved by a man. Anyway, I'm getting off topic.
So if we can get into the big 5 personality trait stuff that Peterson talks about, women are more neurotic. Cancel me. I'm James Damore. Cancel me. But I remember a while back.
Decades of statistical data to back it up, that stuff.
So here's something. A girl I knew once put out like some meme about, man, you don't know what it's like until you're walking out in the street at night and you're scared for your life. Well, we can do an empirical statistical study and see who gets killed, injured, beat up more at night. But it is probably true that you're more afraid when you go out. And so, but what are we saying? What are we talking about? We just talking about your emotions and your neuroticism, or are we talking about reality? Like,
this is where individualism comes in. This is where like treating people as a person rather than like their group markers might be valuable to us. And we've been trying to say that forever, but now that's evil. Now that's a white Western patriarchal construct.
But there's totally a level that I get what you're saying. You feel more scared out there than I do, and it's not fun to be scared. The neuroticism, that's what people got so mad at James Damore for, although that was the technical term out of the theory.
It's not an insult.
Yeah. Every one of us has levels of neuroticism.
Everything is a trade-off.
Yeah.
Every goddamn thing is a trade-off.
Okay, now you're quoting Soul. I'm not going to take you seriously anymore.
Oh, well, cancel him.
Like, will you kick him out?
The thing that's McClellan
to the roof, about, to the moon with Dan Maclellan. Vote McClellan.
Okay, go ahead. One of the many little nerdy interests I have is chess and chess masters. Like, I'm not a great chess player, but I'm really into like the history of chess and the chess masters. And like, if you wanted to, like, I'd love to see actual like statistical analysis on this, but just like, informal survey, like the better you are at chess, the more likely you are insane and will die a gibbering maniac. Like, there's a big correlation there, like, so is there a trade-off there? Like, there's videos of Bobby Fischer at the end of his life in Iceland. He's lost his goddamn mind.
There's trade-off, and it's one of the concepts they talk about in Asperger's and even male brain type stuff, which Sacha Baron Cohen's cousin is one of the leading guys studying this stuff. They think certain types of autism is extreme male brain type concepts, but it's systemic, it's systemized thinking. That's why conspiracy theories can come with it too. A whole lot is like the brains that kind of get bigger picture, big system idea things tend to start seeing more patterns in everything, and they can get kind of schizophrenic, And there's correlation in that.
Life
like it. We'll get
is a female force. That's just the way the world is.
Thanks, Dark Peterson.
Life.
Complimented. It wasn't directed towards me.
Okay. I guess
not
we don't need men
pandered
for
to?
life, right? Like, what is the female force without men? What is it? How long does that last, John Larsen?
I'm glad he mansplained it all.
Yeah. So I remember thinking about this. Like, one of the big deals for being, leaving the Mormon church was probably like, so that priesthood thing. I like, explain it better to me why women don't get the priesthood. Don't say what they always do, which is like, well, women are just so much better and more spiritual than men. That feels like, if I were a woman, I'd be like, do you think I'm stupid enough to be like, oh, Okay, yeah, I am so smart. I am great. I'm amazing, so I don't need the priesthood. That's like the layman's definition. That's a stupid explanation. And I feel like he's doing that here. I feel like that's what he's doing. Is he's saying women are so much better, and Kara, instead of doing the thing that like I feel like I would do if I were a woman. I mean, like, fuck you. You think I'm stupid enough to be pandered to like this? She's like, oh, that's yes. Go on.
Yeah.
I can't, like, so a few days ago, I don't even know how recently, but like, YouTube algorithm suggests Brett Weinstein, and he's interviewing somebody whose name I forget, and the title of the episode is "Are We Entering a New Dark Age?" And then I hear John Larsen say, "Life is a female force," and say this 15 seconds after he said, "There's such thing as asexual reproduction too." Just like, yes, we are entering a new dark age, and John Larsen is a prophet of that dark age. Like, John Larsen is officially more anti-science than Mormonism. Life is a female force. Mormonism, at least for all its patriarchal bullshit, acknowledges that women are essential to life, and men are too.
You could just see in his face that, oh my gosh, I'm sure these women are swooning now.
I'm gonna get so much pussy from this.
God, like, it makes me crazy.
Maybe my wife's boyfriend will let me watch this time.
This is the trade-off. Women, like, the females give life, like, and also this is in the I think there's the KR thing. Like, female crabs lay 10 million eggs at a time, whereas female women have can at most have a dozen babies or so, whatever in a lifetime. Like, but just for this kind of thing, in those types of species where the life is female, then death is male.
Yeah.
If life is the domain of the feminine, then death is the domain of the male. Then you should address that, John Larsen.
I don't know. They've been doing a pretty good job at that.
Yeah,
like, and I don't mean death as in causing it. I mean as dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
they're cannon fodder.
Thing
men are cannon fodder.
Mm-hmm.
We're cannon fodder. We're not as valuable. That's a gynocentric planet.
And we know that. Hillary Clinton.
We're in a gynocentric society. It's a gynocentric
Hillary Clinton,
society.
it's a famous quote. She was in Central America giving a talk at a feminist conference, and she said, and this is maybe not exact, but a very close paraphrase, women are the primary victims of war because they lose their sons, fathers, husbands, brothers in combat. This is the world that John Larsen inhabits.
That's one of the things that it always like flies over their heads. Like, who's had it worse in time? And like, well, I can think of a couple 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million white guys who got marched into a machine gun nest. And so like, what's worse, existing past 19 or being a bit repressed and being able to fight for your oppression? Like, today, to me, like we're always in this world here, since we're not postmodernists, we're always in a world of ranking things. We rank things. We can rank Trump. You can look at Trump and say, Trump sure stinks ass, but I can rank him better than this Machiavellian dipshit, machine that behind him. We're in a world where we rank things. It doesn't mean we love the thing that we choose is higher than the other thing. But if you want to choose, anybody through history wants to choose being enslaved for about a time with a chance of escape or with your own destiny, or marching to a machine gun nest. I think you can choose between that. I think most people would choose the life part.
So today
I'm really good at mental gymnastics, and I can explain to you why it's actually worse for me personally than it was for, I don't know, one of those soldiers on Utah Beach.
Yeah, they got to die.
People try to tell me what to eat when I diet, man. Yeah.
Like, today, in the great, wicked, white patriarchy of America now, you're about 10 times as likely to be homeless if you're male.
Yeah.
And what about that whole life expectancy gap? Like, women get, almost a decade on men?
There's a death on the job gap.
That's not systemic sexism. There's a 93% dying at work gender gap.
It's called the glass floor, and we don't care about it.
There's the sewage worker gender gap. There's the inhaling toxic chemicals gender gap. But the feminists will talk about the radium girls from 100 years ago. That's true. You're right, feminists. That did disproportionately affect women. The radium girls, look them up 100 years ago. Yep. 1920s. Yep.
Falling off roof equality.
You guys heard of the Radium Girls? I'm not going to tell you about them. You look them up. It's a fun story.
Who's that? The Radium Girls? I'm gonna come back to that. Hold on.
You can put it up. Yeah, look it up. It is a story like
it's kind of one recent one. She got criticized for it. She's a therapist. I think she's appeared on trigonometry before, but she went into some of those things that you were just saying. I hadn't even shown this to Flip or Kevin or Jared, but they just started reciting some of them. And of course, what some of the people just said back to her is like, "What this men's rights garbage you're spouting?" That's all they said to her.
No, I know. If it comes
patriarchy
from,
applies
if
to
it comes
1%
from
of
the opposing religion, then it's bad.
So who are you saying to look up?
Oh, the Radium Girls.
I think
in the 1920s, there was a whole industry of
YouTube or just like a Wikipedia?
Wikipedia, or I mean, it's a famous story. It's a thing I know from my life. But there was for a while there's an industry of painting the tips of like watch hands or like avionic instruments or anything with radium that could glow in the dark. This was a major technological innovation. And there you go. Yeah. And because they didn't understand safety, they didn't understand radiation, they didn't understand all this stuff, there were these women that worked in this forever. And like they would dip their paint brushes in radium paint and then lick them to, like you do. And it ended up causing all kinds of horrible disfigurement and cancers and all this other shit. And it's a thing that feminists will bring up because there you go.
Is there a page for the Empire State Building boys?
Fell off of that? Yeah.
Nope, there isn't. Well, so one of the greatest examples of this, and this is from almost a decade ago. You guys remember the Chibok girls, right? From Nigeria, from like 7, 8, 9 years ago, when 250 girls were abducted by Muslim maniacs in a village. And it was big news and the whole world talked about it. And even though most of them were recovered, and it turns out that like 100 of them were found and said, "We want to stay with our captors." Meanwhile, and you can look this up, there's a story, I don't remember who published it, that mentioned that like in the preceding like 5 years, 40,000 Nigerian boys were missing.
Oh,
in that same period. And the world was on fire about 250 girls. And fair enough. But you can look this up. It's real. Like, the boys are disappearing orders of magnitude greater than the girls. Nobody gives a shit.
But the other flip into that, too, is that it's very, very easy when shitty, terrible things happen to women to say, "I hate that shitty, terrible thing happening to women." That's deeply built into us. That's why you guys make such hate with all that sort of thing. We agree.
As a white
shitty, terrible things.
As a white heterosexual male of the patriarchy, I now declare by the Mormon sign of the square that you should not kidnap and sexually enslave Nigerian girls.
We should all denounce rape and racism. And
did we sign the
sexism.
document? Did we sign the document at the start of this? We need to sign the document. Oh my gosh, we didn't sign the document.
Can I just say it's making me super uncomfortable to hear you guys acknowledge racism.
Okay, here we go.
Spread the word. Please subscribe, like us, share this episode and others with people. Comment when you can. All that helps the algorithms. And just be kind and loving and good to each other. We need a panelist that's like a thoughtful conservative. Would you guys hate that?
No,
Chris Hanna.
Yeah, right.
I can role play that.
He almost never swears. He doesn't drink. He's monogamous. He's so.
I'm swearing a lot more right now because of these guys. I mean, just watching, getting ready for this thing, and I got to watch like a day's worth of Larsen because I watched a couple of other things, and I get pissed off, man. Before I came in here, like.
They're going to get Dan Maclellan to come on.
That's what we've got Dan Maclellan, the thoughtful conservative here. But Kevin's exactly right. That's the route they go.
Wait. Okay, I'm banned from the group. If somebody who is not banned from Mormon Stories, are you allowed to make polls? Let's nominate the conservative.
I remember that on
Yeah,
let's do it. I nominate Kevin just because he's
Yeah.
the guy in the room.
Well, there's people who you got to not be banned because I think I'm shadow banned when I comment on there. I mentioned it to Marty.
I'm just totally banned. I can't.
I'm all out
Marty-
banned. I'm friends with Gerardo, and I think he saw my my John Dehlin video that I did. And
Marty-
I posted on my personal Facebook page and got banned from that group immediately.
I suggested
So, okay.
Marty
And
throw
we
her
just-
name in the bucket. And Marty said, I can't comment. I'm shadow banned from this stuff. Marty.
Like, and we just betrayed their unbelievable hypocritic ignorance because, like, they, as much as they talk about how the church crushes dissent, you fucks.
I remember there's been like
Fuck.
several
You
times.
Say, what if we get a conservative on the show? You have banned them
Well,
all.
You get to listen to more of this too. You get to, as Marty said, you get to watch them talk themselves out of it right here. I remember several times on different ex-Mormon pages, somebody coming in and saying, I want to take a survey of who's actually conservative and who's, I'm like, and I would comment, I'm like, what if I was still on it? And I said, what are you doing? You can't, this survey is not giving you actual data. The conservative people get banned the crap off of this all the time.
Yeah.
You can't, you're not taking a real poll here doing this.
It's because of all the
You need
harm
me
they
to.
cause.
I can just, what's up, kids? I'm super hip, hopping, and conservative. Kara 3 years ago was here.
How good of a job do you think she'd do at Steelman in conservative positions?
I think so. She's already explained to me the type of conservative, the type of Mormon that she was. She was an asshole.
Yeah.
And she assumes that every single current Mormon or former Mormon was also that asshole as a Mormon.
Yeah.
I was that 3 years ago. Like, I can role play that in a heartbeat.
No, you can't.
I used to have a lot of fun talking to conservative scholars. I still read some of my favorite conservative scholars. It's hard because
What do you think that means? What are his favorite conservative scholars?
the modern Republican MAGA conservative movement in the United States has really moved away from its intellectual roots. I mean, it's telling that they have no platform.
I cannot describe across. I've brought it up before. Just give me somebody, like give me a giant to just squish you like an ant, in even not in just all of like the intellect, but in the farming world too, in the world of understanding history, in the world of being able to talk about presidents in World War II and wars and all that sort of stuff.
Is that your dream debate? Victor David Hansen versus John Larsen?
Well, it'd be too much of a. It would be such a floor wiping.
I know that's like putting Mike Tyson versus like a 7-year-old.
About that, as I did with the Juicy Smollett case. That was another example that sort of, I mean, wasn't that kind of the ultimate trajectory of identity politics? Because what he was saying to America was, I'm going to create the most unlikely, impossible, illogical scenario in the world, and I'm going to make America believe it because they're so deranged that I can get away with it. And so it wasn't just, I'm African American, but I'm going to be African American and gay. I'm not just going to be African American gay, I'm going to be African American and I'm going to hate Trump. I'm not going to be just African American and hate Trump. I'm going to be young and hip on Empire. I'm not just going to do all that, but I'm going to be walking at 2 a.m. And I'm not just going to be walking at 2 a.m. I'm going to see two white guys who happen to be prowling around liberal Chicago. Not just two white guys are doing it. They're going to have a MAGA hat on. And they're not just going to have a MAGA hat on. Two white guys with a MAGA hat in liberal Chicago are going to say, we're going to prowl around because maybe Jesse Smollett, whom we immediately recognize and yell out as the enemy of Empire, because we always watch Empire. And, you know, Bob says to Fred, let's go out and look for Jesse Smollett type people tonight. And by the way, let's take some lynch rope with us. And then and if that's not enough, let's get bleach that freezes at 5 degrees and we'll throw it and defy the laws of chemistry. It won't freeze in our case. And then not only will we do all that, we'll beat him up, and we're very big, but Juicy's very small, but he's a better fighter, and he's going to fight us off while he's got his sandwich in one hand and his cell phone in the other, recording the whole thing. That's what we were asked to believe, and the nation did.
it's not like those people aren't out there, but that's just not what's dominating the main dialogue. So of course we attack the things that deserve to be attacked. But I wish the conservative intellectuals would come back. And
You're not looking, John. We know you don't look. You said at the beginning of this, you read your opposition. You do not.
I'm annoyed at them for going into hiding and not having the courage to speak out. When
Go into hiding.
But I miss you guys. Let's talk.
I'm banned off of everything.
Yeah,
They're banned and shadow banned.
After I hid them.
They're banned, they're shadow bound, they're fired,
I
they're
miss
removed
you
from their
guys.
paper.
Shut the fuck up.
The New York Times tried to hire Barry Weiss as their conservative voice. Like, she tried like a little bit. I'm not saying that she gets zero credit for not trying at all, but she is 100% not like fully progressive, but she's like on the way to progressive, like an on the way to progressive, lesbian Jewish lady was the New York Times' conservative voice, and they chased her off. She quit because she gave a whole long resignation letter saying, I have to quit because I cannot take the ideological monoculture here.
And
what a fascist.
My only exposure to Barry Weiss was the Joe Rogan interview, where she comes off looking really bad, in my opinion, as a journalist, where Joe Rogan, a weightlifting stand-up comic, seems to have a greater grasp on geopolitics than an editor at the New York Times.
That's true across the board everywhere.
But to keep her credit, though, to get the fact that she stood up with her principles, God bless her.
Yeah, well, but she's far. I mean, I use their word far, but she's far left. She's not just like center left. She's left, and she was supposed to be the conservative voice of the New York Times, and she resigned because it was too much of a leftist monoculture. That's the New York Times, and that was 3-4 years ago.
More. I'm not as there's a lot of conservative ideas that I find amenable, that I'm down with. So
name one.
But this modern neo-fascist movement that's going on right now, that's bathed in lies and
that doesn't
power.
Exist.
That's not
a figment of your imagination. That has been demonstrated to be at best a few wackos in Idaho and Michigan.
Once again, we'll come back to
not Jared. He's a different set of wackos in Idaho.
I'm from the potato part of Idaho, not the white supremacy part.
It's the skinny part up north, right?
Yep. That's where the Nazis are.
Boy, oh boy, that's a story of when.
That's where my MTC companion was from.
Well, this was years ago, but a friend posted a thing on Facebook that said the FBI has never law enforcement has never gone after conservatives like they go after liberals. And I said Ruby Ridge, and he's like, so they went after some white supremacists. What's the big deal? So I linked him to the article. I'm like, they shot a woman holding her toddler in her kitchen. Unfriended. Bye, friend. See you later.
Went into hiding.
These facts.
I had to hide from him.
He didn't give you a very soft description, I don't care if there's babies in the basement of that house. I think it is better for the FBI to go after white supremacists. I mean,
this is one of those things about Ruby Ridge and Waco, which is the Netflix documentary in Waco, I have to admit, I think was really, really excellent. I think they really handled it well.
Yeah, it was good. I was surprised how good it was.
In my opinion, because there's a documentary where they interview the county sheriff. There's a great documentary that's not the Netflix thing, but an actual real life documentary. And they talk to the county sheriff, and it ends with him just saying they just wanted to be left alone. If we had just left them alone.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing about Ruby Ridge, they just wanted to be left alone. All we had to do was leave them alone. And in both cases, especially Ruby Ridge is, I think, less justifiable. Waco is one of those things where it's that was an unmitigated disaster, but I don't know whose fault it was. There's blame to lay everywhere. But I still think it's true. They just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah.
We could have just left them alone.
We should do a special episode, Conservatives Meet John Larsen and Nuance Ho.
Oh,
yeah,
I'll
right.
do it.
Yeah, right.
I'm
That would
conservative.
ever
Do
happen.
any of us identify as conservative? Do any of us actually go about and say we're conservatives? Kevin, you
I mean,
voted for
relatively
Republican. I
now.
guess
I
that's a
say I have
conservative.
some leanings, but I also say I have some classically liberal leanings.
Yeah, no, like
You can't
'cause
call
Chris
yourself
Hanna-
classically liberal anymore.
I'm
Yeah.
conservative.
So
I'm
that means
conservative
Chris pointed
for
out, like Chris pointed out to me, like he had to correct, like I had to correct myself, like Chris is right. I'm conservative in that I believe in conserving liberal values in this anti-liberal leftist onslaught. That's what makes me conservative. But like, I am left of Bill Clinton in 1996. Like me right now is left of Bill Clinton in 1996, which makes me alt-right Nazi according to my little sister.
I start going more and more like libertarian routes, and I can't go all the way down the route because I think there's certain things like libertarians are too easy to let go of stuff about like child rape stuff, or there's things where you obviously need police officers and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But the more and more I think about it, I cannot think of a way to in any way centralize money and not have it go corrupt like this. That's the only thing that just leaves me just kind of stunted in the brain. Like I don't know how to get around that.
Yeah, like there are paradoxes for me because libertarianism is one of those things where it's like it just breaks down. Like you can't. It's like it's the Klingons on Star Trek problem. Like how do you get anything done?
Because anybody can
But, like,
say I think we should pool money together for healthcare, and I just hear that and I go, that can't work. I know what you're saying. I know what you're meaning. I know what you like the fantasy you're saying. I fantasize of that too, but there's no way it could happen.
But for me, like one of the paradoxes is like that, like state monopoly on violence, like only the state can do law enforcement. Like that's weirdly effective. It's weirdly the best thing ever. Like it turns out that private security is worse than state monopolized violence. But it's one of the only things where like the state monopoly seems to be preferable to free market law enforcement, right? Because we already know what free market law enforcement looks like, and that's no good. But I've mentioned before, I briefly worked in residential teenage mental health treatment care, and like that's a thing where it's like prisons, teenage healthcare, mental health care should not be privatized. Like putting a profit motive on those things is bad, Like there's something, because that's the thing, like I'm basically a libertarian, but the reason I can't call myself a libertarian is because no, there are some things like there should be a state monopoly on law enforcement. You know?
But then sorting it
as
out.
long as we keep every other aspect of power out of their hands, that's the magic trick, which is what Democrats are working so hard to erode right now.
Yeah, I mean, I never call myself conservative. Like my wife will tell people like, oh yeah, we don't get along with ex-Mormons because like we're too conservative for them. I'm like, well, I mean, I guess we are, like, compared to them, compared to all these three here, I'm a fucking far right Nazi fascist, but like I'll go on that show for him. I'll talk to him, see John Larsen though, if he comes to somebody who wants to be like the conservative on the show, he'd probably be like, so you hate the gays, right?
But I don't think he'd even let somebody like that on. He can't platform somebody like that. But because I mean that's the thing I was getting at with him way before when I actually got him on the hook answering me. I commented here on this one again, but I think I'm shadow banned, so I don't think anything will even come through. But I said to him, like, I'm your Huckleberry, I'm right here, but I know
you're not even a conservative. You're not even really conservative. You're just right of him.
Yeah, but they would see him as conservative.
Yeah, they would see me as conservative, and I'm sure I can do a better job of still manning people on the right than Kara could. But
absolutely,
the beyond that, they will not accept any conservative who's not already. I think this is why it ties into the BYU thing, is that they will not accept any conservative who's not in agreement with that PR team. Does that make sense? Like that BYU PR team, those Spencer Coxes who were like groveling and seeing this as a situation to grovel for. That's how far right they're willing to go. People who are in agreement with that. People who are in agreement with that, those apologies. That's how far right they will allow on.
As long as the null hypothesis, as pertains to the Duke BYU volleyball racism allegations, as long as the null hypothesis is off the table, they'll talk to you.
Yeah. Yep.
As long as you just assume
any conservative who is in agreement with the apology, that's their level. That's how far they'd ever go, and they won't even go that far. They won't even go that far.
When I think back, when I was at like my maximum conservative, and like I don't really count anything like before 16, like, because you know, how much do you even know about the world? But like 1997, I was 17. That was like the most believing, even though I was inactive, I didn't go to church, and I was only ordained a deacon. I didn't even do teacher priest. I went straight to elder when I went on my mission. Like, I didn't even go to church, and like I hung out with all these kinds of people, and I was at my maximum conservative. Even at that point, I was pro legalization, and I wasn't pro gay marriage, but the civil union thing, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, like, yeah, just a legal thing that gives them the same thing, and that's it. And I don't think that I was that abnormal.
No, you were. Well, that's where I was. Like, because we had this big political test when I was in like 10th grade. I was like 15 years old, and they were like passing around this thing that said like, "Here's your political standing. Here, like, take these opinions and tell us what you think about them." And one of them was like, "Do you support the like making gay marriage illegal?" I was, very LDS, and I sat there, stared at it for a while. It was the first time I really had to think about it, and I was like, I can't support making it illegal because leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. Like I think it's I've bought that it was a sin, but like I don't want to make it illegal. I'm not going to make coffee illegal, and I think that's a sin.
I was asked the question. Pretty normal. I was asked the question for a class in college. It was like 2000. It was before I left. I was still in. I said in the class that I was for the gay marriage, but I was against gay adoptions because that was putting too much on the kid. I was thinking of the kid. It was like the kid shouldn't be put in the middle of this stuff. And that was me as a Mormon at that time. That's as far as conservative as I ever was in that stuff.
Yeah. Well, because I was raised by a monogamous mother and father that were born. I was born under the covenant. I was all of these things. And I know enough from my family life to know that just because you have a mom and dad that are monogamous and faithful doesn't mean that they're good parents, right? Like, I know, but I also believe the statistics. And, like it's the thing I've mentioned a lot of times where like a big thing that killed my faith was going out on my mission and just like, I've said a million times, like, I think if I'd gone to a foreign country, I might still be Mormon. Just because of the fact that I went to California, so like the culture shift was basically non-existent, and I saw the inside of 1,000 homes, and for me there was just this thing where it's like, okay, there's just nothing different or special, huh?
Just blame it on California.
Well, that's a shitty place in so many ways, but yeah,
source of all our problems.
I just got a Twitter notification that the CDC director just signed off on the new COVID-19 boosters.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So COVID's over, guys. We gotta go
get in the waiting line
forever. Will this one guarantee the prevention of transmission?
It's signed off. It's signed off on by the CDC.
And I don't mean absolute guarantee. I just mean like MMR level.
Why would you demand that a vaccine stop the disease?
Well, you saw that they properly
raise your hand if you've ever had polio. Raise your hand if you've ever had mumps.
You saw
Raise
that
your
they
hand
properly...
if you've ever had measles or rubella. Raise your hand if you had COVID. Raise your hand if you had the vaccines for all of these things.
they properly...
I've not been vaxxed, so...
Oh my God.
Get the fuck off of this screen.
Trust the science, dude.
Oh, well, there you go. So, wait, we got a good sample here. Not a great sample, but better. We got 4 people, 3 vaccinated. So, 4 COVID positives, right? Everybody's gotten COVID. 3 of us got vaccines. I've had COVID. You had COVID. Have you had COVID, Kevin?
Yeah,
Did you get
I have.
it? Like, I'd have to struggle to find someone in my life that didn't get it at this point.
Well, it's
and I'd have to struggle in my life to
now.
find people who aren't vaccinated, except
it's
for
solved
Kevin,
now. There's new
who
boosters.
Murdered my grandma.
Except if you didn't, I don't know if you looked up. They changed the.
I wonder how many people's grandmas I've murdered.
They changed the definition of vaccine, so
yeah,
I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that.
So why How dare you question it? Let's see what they say more about conservatism.
We host a respectful dialogue of thoughtful conservative Mormon Stories listeners that just want to say, hey, John Larsen and Kara Burrell, you guys have been a little bit hard on conservatives, and we want to tell you what we think and try to come to a better understanding.
I would love that. It would be 2 hours of me going, I totally used to believe that. And then I actually I had an ego death and I was just like, I just want to know what's true.
Oh my
and
God.
then I just researched
Maybe they should,
ton and I came to an opposite. It would just be me saying that for 2 hours.
Call Rod Meldrum.
She's researched more than us. She researched this stuff.
You had Rod Meldrum on, and he was very, very reasonable, and you put him through a fucking struggle session for 4 hours.
But she
This
researched
might be
a
like
ton.
deep psychological shit. But do you know what flashed into my mind as he just spoke those words? Nurse Ratched. That like totally unconscious. That's what came into my mind, is that smiling. We like you. We want to help you.
Mm-hmm.
You guys all know Nurse
Takes the
Ratched?
drug. Takes the drug.
Yeah.
Hours straight.
I
we can save the time.
You can save the time. Oh, you can save the time because she says that she's researched.
I love
it, so
that
she just knows
answer
better than
too. The
idea,
answer
but-
of, oh yeah, I used to think that when I was a fucking retard. Now
Before I knew there was such thing as science, nobody told me there was science when I was a Mormon. And then
Back when I hated women, blacks,
I'm
and
still
gays.
retarded.
Kevin, have you heard of science?
What?
Have you heard of it? You got to check it out.
Do you even live?
If you want this, if you want to have this life,
You should
Caleb
start
Burrell right
reading.
here.
Here, I'll give you a book to read by Sam Harris.
Have you read that book?
Have I?
That
End of Faith?
Sam Harris? No. Free Will. That's the book she loves.
The only Sam, like that's things like I read The End of Faith, and then I only kind of caught Sam Harrison's scatters after that.
So
But-
Sam Harris was big when I was leaving the church. So I was jumping into all those atheist debaters and stuff, and I got big into him, especially after his thing on Bill Maher versus fucking Ben Affleck. I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. This guy
gross. Didn't he say gross?
Yeah,
Was
he
that
said
one of the-
gross. He actually said gross. No,
Did
but-
he start the gross thing? 'Cause
Yeah,
these
it's
guys
gross.
picked
It's
up gross.
racist. It's gross.
Dude,
Icky.
did John Dehlin get gross from Affleck?
No, I doubt that.
It's gross.
He's just
It's gross. It's
no,
gross.
but then Sam Harris wrote Free Will, and one of my friends let me borrow it. He didn't tell me his opinion on it.
Did he do it of his free will, or did you make him borrow it?
No, it's dog shit. Read it if you can because it's so bad. It's like a.
Here's
I
what
don't know,
happened.
It's only
to
like
Harris.
100 pages, really.
It sucks, and so does the moral landscape. And what Harris ran into, like everybody runs into, is the same thing you run into, Larsen, as we'll see it. Deconstructing is easy. That's the easy stuff. And you've got to be in the seat against the Mormons where you're just the deconstructor. But the constructing is hard. And
He doesn't even do deconstructing in Free Will. He just says shit like.
But that's what I'm
like,
saying
well,
is that's when
why-
he got. That's when Harris got to the side where he was constructing stuff, is where like the breakdown of the religion
No.
stuff was easy. When he gets to the stuff where now he start trying to make positive claims, he becomes a retard, a brickhead, and that's just really how it ultimately is. And that's kind of one of the things too. We run into it too. We can dissect these guys all we want, and then the second we start saying, well, what should happen in the community? Well, since we're all kind of a bit more humble, you saw us all kind of hedge real hard, saying, oh, I don't know what to do with that money. We just should do that. We should be careful of that money. And I think that's ultimately the conservative position, the Roger Scruton position, which is Roger Scruton says a conservative is somebody who says, wait a minute. That's all it is. You know, and we're
wait a minute.
and that's what all we did when we talked about what would we do is we just stopped and started thinking real hard because we've read and done our research, Kara, and we realized there's a lot of stuff about those Chesterton's fences that before you just go and yoink them out.
The only reason that I feel any confidence in my position on abortion is that it makes no one happy, least of all me.
Yeah.
Like, if anybody
there was
who
that one
pretends
lady
to
on
have a simple answer to that,
there's that one lady on the Daily
I
Show
don't
who said shout your abortion and threw a parade for women having their abortions and that stuff. But
If you want an abortion, get one.
But that's one of the things that Larsen always says here. He kind of announces, Kara announces that she just deconstruct them, and Larsen will always say, if I ever got them in front of me, I'd just deconstruct them. I'd ask them to define their terms. And then every single one of their terms, I'd say, what does that mean? What exactly do you mean? Like, what exactly do you mean by fascism, Larsen? Look, we could do this to you. We know the Socratic method.
Yeah.
We know how to deconstruct. We can, all it matters is who's in the hot seat. And you let me put you on the hot seat, I will deconstruct you, Dark Peterson.
Yeah.
But
we can break your Lego bits down into little pieces, just like anybody else.
Yep. But when we have to construct a great big Lego thing, that's where we kind of stop and go, let's stop and think about this. There's lots of trade-offs. Whereas you guys go, no, we have all the answers. We're the galaxy brain, big technocratic, big brain, super smart guys. We're the smart ones who figured it out. Oh,
And,
we have Dan Maclellan.
And so, because how many times, because we can do like a big counter of how many times these guys pretend to want to hear criticism. Because we just had another one.
Lie.
They're lying.
Such a lie. And people have asked us,
are the proof. We're the living proof that they're lying.
They've asked us, why don't you go try to debate Dehlin? What would happen if you debated Larsen? It's not happening. We tried.
Yeah. Like, what if it's like, okay, John Larsen, when are you in town? When do you
won't even talk to you as
you want to
far
try
as
that?
Facebook
like, what if we tried
conversation?
that? I wonder if we could. I wonder if we even blocked.
Well,
Like,
he even says it here.
I can't because I got a restraining order on.
But
Coof. He tried to kill my family.
He tries to divert out, and this is one of the things I call with him. He tries to divert out and say, well, how about we do it over beers? Like, no, how about we do it where everybody's watching and you got to say the honest answer, and not the stuff where you know that you're pandering to the little ladies who loved your thing about God's a woman and stuff.
Because I would just go for their jugular in 4 minutes, and then
here's my jugular.
That's not fair because your jugular is so padded and insulated. I can't do it, you asshole.
Here's my jugular, Larsen. I've been asking you, come at my jugular.
There's things just like we went over with the problem that this movement has, the same thing Mormonism has. The discrepancies, the lies are blatant and they're easy.
I can come up with some lies, Larsen. I'd like you to answer for some lies.
They're easy to point out. And so unless they want to distance themselves, that's the first thing. It's like, do you believe this? Do you believe this? Do you believe this? Do you believe this? But then if we can get beyond that, then for sure. But if
what's he talking about? People
explaining, like vaguely explaining a shower conversation he had about how he would just own every conservative.
But that's all they ever do. It's more of
I'd say this, and they'd be like, "Oh no, I'm a bigot."
It's all he ever does. And then just like Kara, like we see Kara do it in her TikTok videos where she puts up the straw man herself, and maybe John Larsen will get into that genre. It's always just his fantasy straw man. It's his and if they ever did take somebody on, like I said in the comment that they didn't look at today, is that you would only ever accept talking with a conservative who's either kind of a dingus, you could like walk all over them because they're like, hey, I want my Coors beer and I like my tracker, and why don't you? I'm a conservative. Or they're going to take somebody maybe like Rob Meldrum or something like that, or they're going to take one of those rhino Republicans who agree that the BYU PR team should have apologized like a bunch of cucks.
When he was just talking, he turned into Macho Man Randy Savage on South Park. Strong woman.
Strong woman, oh yeah.
My name is Heather. Man, you nailed that. You're like, it's like Mike Stacklasa with his Palpatine.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
No, you got it. You've got it. That's
oh yeah. Yeah, but do a Slim Jim. Yeah.
Holy shit, that's astounding.
If they're
nothing means nothing. Nothing means nothing. Nothing means nothing.
We're up into the ionosphere. We're into the stress.
Part of some kind of Christian nationalist neo-fascist movement.
Define your terms, John Larsen.
Define your terms.
Define your terms, John Larsen.
Who are the neo-Christian nationalist fascists?
What are you talking about? Where are these
they
neo-fascist
use those
Christian
words?
nationalists? Do they organize? Is there a club? Where are these neo-fascists?
I got news for you, John Larsen. Christian dominionism is just an idea.
Ooh, we deconstructed you down to where nothing means nothing.
It ain't gonna be
To
pretty.
be clear,
It ain't
I
gonna
have
be
been
pretty.
concerned about Christian nationalists for 20 years. Like, They're real. Fortunately, they're small, they're minor, and they don't run any, like, let's say, I don't know, university departments.
Well, and then they don't call themselves
don't worry about
Christian
them as much.
nationalists.
Yeah.
John Larsen coming out. I'm not responsible for the bloodbath that would happen if I were to engage with a conservative.
Are you going? Whose voice was that? That was.
It's kind of Batman, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was.
On that, then for sure. But you know,
They can
if they're
stand up
part
to
of
me.
some kind of Christian nationalist neo-fascist movement. It ain't gonna be pretty. There's gonna be blood on the floor.
All right.
Ooh, them just fighting words.
Well, Christian and nationalist. I mean, oof.
The thing is, like, as I understand it, like, the best I can get from the left, like, when I say, okay, what are the things you don't like about fascism? Information control, censorship, political suppression. You know, like, and it's just a checklist of what their agenda is.
You know how they always kind of like use phrases like that to say he threatened violence at me. He just said there'd be blood on the floor. There's all that stuff. You see the stuff going around.
No,
with that.
exactly.
Yeah,
that's
But
it.
They took
Everything.
oh man, they
the
took
iron
that
law
and ran
of
with it.
projection never misses.
Oh, they took that and ran with it when Holland came out with his they keep one hand on their shovel and
Muskets.
one hand on their musket.
Mhm.
He wants to kill the gays. It's a metaphor, you
They always
fucking
will.
shitheads.
Did you see Sam Hyde after he won his fight this week? What he said?
Sam
you see
Hyde
that?
won a wait. What?
Oh my gosh,
Like
you
a
gotta see
fist
this.
fight?
Don't.
What?
Oh my gosh, you guys gotta see
I don't
this.
follow Sam Hyde.
Andy
at all.
Worski.
I
Andy
just know who he
Worski
is.
had a boxing match, and Sam Hyde had a boxing match.
What the shit?
And Andy
You-
Worski's still around?
Oh yeah. Okay, you got. We're gonna have a little.
Oh my God. Okay.
We're gonna have a little. Let's play this out, and you guys comment on it while I look those.
Well,
up.
there's a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of
trying-
conservatives that actually don't like a lot about what's going on. And
Yeah, bullshit. They keep saying that, but none of them have the courage to come out and say it.
Liz Cheney,
They keep
Mitt Romney.
saying that, but they don't have the
Wait.
courage to say that.
Yeah. John,
What are
did you see that
talking
post that Bill
Tell
Real
me
put up
you've
today? I
never watched
reposted it, and
Tucker Carlson without telling me you never watched Tucker Carlson. Tell me you never watched Steven Crowder without telling me you never watched Steven Crowder. Tell me you never watched Ben Shapiro without, like, literally name all the biggest conservative outlets right now. They all shit on Republicans and conservatives all the time. John, you are a lying hack. I've been drinking too much. But holy shit. No, but like, God damn it. This is one of those things where it's like, I've got 10 million things that I disagree with Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson and all these names. And the reason I disagree with them is because I fucking watch them. I listen to them. I know what they say. I know that you're lying, John Larsen. I know you are. Because if you saw them, you would know. Like, this is a thing I run into all the, like, as an ex-Mormon, you run into all the time. When like you run into a Mormon and they don't know you are an ex-Mormon, and they will say stuff about Mormonism as if because they don't know you were there, and you're like, no, I was there. I read it. I read the scriptures. I was a missionary. I'm not talking about a thing I heard. I'm talking about a thing I lived. And like, this is one of those things where it's like, I have seen what conservatives actually say about Republicans, John Larsen, and I know you're lying about it right now.
Okay, let's finish.
It's all about the left.
But this is one of the things that Mark rant away.
Right, intellectual versus practical reasons for leaving the church, and it has a list of all the reasons that people from the right are leaving. They have to do with like elite, globalism, government worship, informed consent, health freedom, personal revelation, free agency. And I do think that is a long mission of Mormon Stories for a long time, to not alienate people who are leaving for those reasons as well. But the reasons that we so often talk about, like John Larsen was saying, they overlap with the very foundations of why you know the church isn't true. And so you have to be intellectually honest to say, if this pattern exists in the church, does it not exist in your own political ideology? And so sometimes people are just leaving the church. It's a very conservative religion, as was I. I was horrified that I was just going to have to go join BLM or something after I left the church. There was no conservative landing pad for me as I left a very conservative religion. So I do empathize with that problem. I just had to slowly move baby step towards undoing a lot of the untrue things that were pumped in my brain from
Conversion
you
story.
know
This is a conversion
riding in
story.
the truck with my dad my entire life listening to
Bear
talk
your
radio.
testimony,
It
Kara.
takes some time to undo.
I know
Well, I
that
want to make sure
not
there are
conservatism
some
is
great
true.
conservative commentators out there. I think David Brooks is still one who's been true to conservative movement and conservative
I have empathy,
values.
and so should
if we can get past this,
I know
whatever it
my
is that's going on right
politics
now,
are
then yeah,
good.
I'd love to engage and talk to folks.
You know that
All
you know
right.
that part
well,
on
we'll ask any of our conservative viewers, the listeners, if they want to have this conversation, reach out to me and we'll see.
I
if we
do.
can have it.
We all
Yeah.
do.
This
We all tried.
It ain't happening.
You won't allow it.
I'll message him right
So
now.
you know the part on Dune when like the red hair fat guy starts floating up in the air on the original Dune. I just look at Larsen and I'm waiting for him to like float up into the air.
Is that the Baron? I never watched
Yeah,
the
the
original
Baron,
movie.
yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
original. The original.
Here's the scary thing though, because you know, like Sam Harris, where like for so long I'm like, wow, what a clear thinking guy. That's a guy who, like, even if I'm not sure I agree with him, even if I disagree with him, that's a clear thinking guy. And I can't say that anymore. And for a long time I thought like John Larsen, wow, he's a clear thinking guy.
John Larsen, Sam Harris,
like,
both.
That's what scares me.
They
It's
got
like,
Trump deranged.
What's my thing? Like, is there a thing where am I not the clear thinking guy? And I like to think, and I know from personal existence, because like I have asked the people that fight with me about this stuff to their faces, what are the things? I mean, like for example, like last time I saw my brother and I said something about ideological possession. He said, "And you're not," and I responded, "How? Where am I ideologically possessed? You tell me." And of course he changed the subject. But I like to think like I did that. I opened it up with somebody that I was fighting. Like we were having the fucking big political fight over. Okay, like I've told you I've told you to your face where I think you are ideologically possessed. Now you've accused me of the same. Tell me. I called your bluff and you had nothing. So I like to think I'm okay, but like watching all my heroes go down this path, Jesus, it scares me.
Yeah, that's one of the freaky things about Trump. All the principles went out the window. All the straight thinking went out the window. All the institutions sped up, selling their own credibility down the river, just across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the fight with Andy Warski. There was a fight. It was in England with internet personalities. Andy Warski was one of the guys who was one of the blood sports guys. They had this time frame around 2000, right around.
He
when
was
the
a
first Trump,
shooting star. That like talk about shine bright and then disappear. That
yeah,
guy
because he's pretty dumb, and but he got pretty popular doing kind of like groaning videos, social justice warrior stuff coming up. And
what was it? Was it the Richard Spencer versus? What was the Richard Spencer versus whoever it was the biggest thing on YouTube that day? And it like.
So they created a channel that was for debates. Right as soon as YouTube started allowing that, they suddenly created this thing called Blood Sports, and there's 3 or 4 different channels. And Ralph, if you ever watch Mr. Medicare destroys the Ralph guy now.
Utah guy, by the way, local connection. He's from Bountiful, right?
So there was a bunch of these kind of, I mean, I wouldn't call them alt-right. They really were actually
not left is enough to be
adjacent alt-right. Yeah, but they weren't center left. They weren't center right. You know what I mean? But they were actually just kind of like internet shit posters. It's kind of almost like 4chan people live on YouTube before they all got kicked off. And so they'd have these debates and they'd bring on people like Sargon versus Richard Spencer, which you can go back and watch that debate. And he was the moderator in the middle of some of them. And he made popular this other guy named JF. I don't know if you ever saw JF. JF became a kind of a Stefan Molyneux type. We just kind of started talking as this French Canadian guy. And yeah, I mean, they were a little bit on the right side of stuff, not the far right, not far. Yeah, I might call them far right, not all the way alt right though. Like, so he kind of lost his popularity, and it kind of got exposed in doing those debates that he's kind of dumb and didn't know anything about anything. And,
what does that like? As far as I can tell, Like alt-right is conservative white nationalist. Isn't what else does the alt-right mean other than that? Does it mean anything other than that? Like some level of white ethno-nationalism.
It means everything.
Yeah, some level, some level of white
but they really are just the other side of the coin.
Some level of white ethnocentrism, and why I say some of them are all the way there, like Richard Spencer, or you might even say Nick Fuentes a little bit, where they're straight up saying like, I want a separate ethnic white state.
Yeah, no, that
Richard Spencer wasn't he?
Which is what BLM wants, right?
Yeah.
BLM
wasn't Richard Spencer the one that coined the
and
term?
Berkeley.
And Berkeley is advocating for the same thing. Yeah.
So wasn't
There's
Richard
a reason
Spencer
why
the one that
Richard
coined the
Spencer
term in the
endorsed Joe Biden. There's a reason. Like it wasn't. It
What were
wasn't
you
a,
asking
it
about
wasn't
him?
a whoopsie.
So wasn't he the one that coined the term in the first place of alt-right?
Yeah, he was. Well, no,
Richard
because it
Spencer?
started
No.
coming up
I
because
thought
there
it
was
was-
like he was the one who as soon as he announced that he was into the term, it became ethnocentrism. At first, it was just saying right-wing
was just
internet
like-
people. It was just saying right-wing internet people, people on the internet who had fun, like 4chan right-wing. And then as soon as Richard Spencer says, I'm part of it, it immediately poisoned it, that it just means Richard Spencer now.
Yeah. Kind of like how
well, that's why I
swastika
say these guys were adjacent,
Nazi
because
now,
these
even though it's a millennia-old religious symbol.
Yeah, so like you might have called like Milo Yiannopoulos would have used the term alt-right before Richard Spencer claimed it, and then he couldn't claim it, and then he couldn't say it anymore. It might have been Yiannopoulos who
Because he was in a homosexual relationship with a black man.
Yeah, but as soon as Spencer announced it, you couldn't touch it anymore. But the reason why I say these guys are a little bit adjacent to it is because they were calling themselves alt-right. They were around that before it got taken over by Spencer, but they have like a little bit in them of that. They don't want a separate ethno state, but they get into talking about race realism type stuff, or or they don't like the Jews type stuff, you know.
Yeah, no, they are exactly the reverse of the coin of Ibram Kendi. Like Richard Spencer and Ibram Kendi live in the same world.
Anyway,
on different sides of the coin.
They both, like, some of them got just kicked off of YouTube altogether. But what really actually happened with most of these guys is they kind of got what's supposed to happen with free speech. They got exposed as kind of idiots. They're just knuckleheads. They're stupid. They don't know their ass from their face. And they really just kind of lost popularity from people realizing they were dumb as bricks. And so to try to kind of regain some of it or to keep relevant or something, Worski agreed to a fight, but this is the same night that Sam Hyde fought. And I mean, you're in for a treat. Watch it, because Sam Hyde's always kind of playing a character. Sam Hyde's like an Andy Kaufman. But wait until you watch it.
Oh my God.
This is Atheism Unstoppable, who did get kicked off of YouTube and who is a Democrat.
Saw Puppy's there.
Good friend.
Yeah, the standoff.
So that's Worski.
Atheism Unstoppable is narrating.
Yeah.
What you mean?
I'll send you guys this whole video if you want to watch it, because like he talks just a
Are we
bunch
gonna
of
get-
smack to this
yeah.
guy all the time.
We got to be careful with the strikey strikes.
There's no strike. It's Rumble, and it's Atheism is Unstoppable.
Oh my God. There's just no coordination, no flow.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is
Which one is Andy Worski?
This is Worski. He's just a little bit
non-Filipino
chubbier right now. He used to be real
That's
skinny.
Oh, he's left-handed. All right.
Yeah.
Look at him. Look at him already. He's scared of every jab. Look at him. He's like fear.
Expect a lot of showboating from Salt Poppy. Salt Poppy on some of the best times.
Oh God! Wait, is the Filipino guy a proper fighter? Or is
Well, he
just
just
some
had some more
internet dude?
training, but that's the whole entire fight. It lasted 15 seconds. And if you watch the whole first 23 minutes, it's all Worski just talking shit. So it's pretty funny. You'll like it. I'll send it to you. It's fun to watch.
Wow.
But Worski got his butt booted. But here's
So Sam
in that
Hyde
the
did a fight?
title fight of that is Sam Hyde. And Sam Hyde had been training. Sam Hyde trained the Epic Meals Time dude to fight some other guy. And that guy, I think, won his fight too. But Sam Hyde's actually kind of into boxing and started doing this, but this stuff will crack you up. I'm telling you.
Sam Hyde better be into
Sargon
boxing.
covered it.
Like
Committed
Sam Hyde's the guy. Like
every
if he
major
lost,
shooting.
he wins.
Yeah.
This is, of course, interviews before his big match, and let's play the first clip.
Oh
I'm fine, Dad. Don't worry about me. Worry about my opponent, August 27th. What's going to happen? You're going to see something. You're going to see a reckoning that's been in the works since Black 47. When the Irish famine hit and it killed millions of people, and the English sat back and did nothing, and their corn mill owners and their sausage factory tycoons did nothing to help the Irish people. I'm going to get revenge.
All right, well, that sounds pretty good then. But talk to me about your opponent. What do you know about him? Why did you decide to fight him?
Oh, Timmy's a good man. He's got a good heart. He'll be okay. Don't worry about him.
So this is about.
It's completely insane.
Yeah, he's not
Somehow
he's
he's
not
from
Irish.
Boston, right?
He's not
Isn't he
Irish,
from, like,
and
New England?
through the whole entire fight, through the whole entire preparation for months, he's been acting Irish. He's been doing it for like he's
a
doing it for
method
3
actor,
months.
huh?
But wait, he's real life Andy Kaufman, real life. Like this is the current Andy Kaufman.
Fight again?
Oh, there's only one fight on my radar, laddie. And you
who's
know who
that?
that is? Hassan Piker.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, he's a dirty, dirty man. He needs to be punished. Punished with Irish fury.
What makes him dirty? Is he not a buff or something?
Well, he's Turkish for one.
Anything else?
So, I just looked up to make sure. Hyde is not Irish. It's an English name.
No, he's not Irish at all.
He's not Irish at all.
He's taking on this persona for.
I would love to watch him play Hassan.
You want very much. That's a fella by the name of Hassan Piker. Are you going to get that fight?
Oh, I will if I have to go to Hollywood. Myself and me lonesome on me little moped. I'll go out there and get him, Donald. You'll see. I'll be out there committing a crime and stalking him because I'm gay and I'm obsessed with him.
See, like Sam Hyde, like he's perfect because like if he wins the fight, it's funny. If he loses the fight, it's still funny. He wins all the time.
Yeah, and so he had this thing where at the title, like when they were facing each other down, he was just sitting in his face going, "Are you ready, laddie? Are you ready? Are you ready?" But I don't think that clips in here. But so after the fight.
You got anyone you want to call out in the heavyweight division?
Oh, you know it, lad. You know that Hassan Piker. I'm coming to kill you in Los Angeles at your house.
Or in the ring?
No, in real life. I'm going to stalk him and become obsessed with him and wear his makeup and his dresses and use his skin as a coat like the ancient Irish did.
Well, that's your winner, Sam.
Oh my gosh.
Like Sam Hyde is one of those like that. Like he's one of those guys where like
I think
can't
John
say
Larsen
I'm a
needs to get in the
fan.
ring.
He's too weird, and
Well,
he
that's-
does too much weirdness. But like, goddamn, sometimes does he knock them out of the park?
So of course, like well, I'll go back to it because of course Hassan starts saying when you have a deranged Nazi talking about you, you shouldn't be talking. You know, he of course like takes this high roady thing.
And now his opponent, the greatest Irishman in the past 2,000 years, from South Boston, Rhode Island, USA, he is the Candyman, Big Sam Hyde. He weighs in at 261 pounds. Tomorrow night at the O2 Arena.
I'm dripping, Thompson. I'm dripping. I'm a dolphin. I'm wet. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Ah! Ah! I'm
Oh my
So
goodness.
I had to talk about the
Jesus, that was amazing.
communists. I'm not even going to swear, but you know what I mean. You know, America deserves 9/11. Punch
certainly,
maybe. To his credit, Hassan had previously turned down Sam.
Dude, if you see a mentally ill Nazi, okay, on the internet, be like, I'm gonna kill Hassan Piker. Okay, I'm gonna come to his house and murder him. And you go, oh, this is some information that he should probably watch. Like he should he should watch and address this. Okay. Then honestly, just don't post and get out of the community.
You absolute woman.
You know what? I hate thinking about that, because you think, like, if you're just looking at two internet personalities, like Hassan Parker, you play along.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to just play along, play along. And there's a reason why Hassan can't just go play along, and it's because Hassan believes in what he believes, and Sam Hyde knows that he's playing.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Like, that's how Sam Hyde was beating Piker, is that Sam is playing a game. Hassan believes this shit.
Yeah. Well, but of course they're always going to like take. I mean, I think purposely one of the things Sam Hyde does in that interview is he says, "No, I'm coming to your house. I'm going to commit a crime," you know, and all sorts of stuff. Is because he's just taunting him to like
Wear
do
your
stuff
skin
that
like a
they're-
suit.
If
Well,
he
like,
said
I've
it,
never seen
if he
him-
said it more subtly, like "I'd like to beat you up, blood on the floor," like John Larsen said, they'd make a bigger deal out of it. But because he said, "No, I want to commit a crime at your house," you know.
Maybe you can cut it in because it's like obviously it's not being copyright stricken because it's already on YouTube. But that Whitest Kids You Know sketch, where it's just what's his name, Moore? I forget the main guy, the tall, goofy, gangly guy who died.
who died.
Yeah, like he died a comedian's death. He fell off his balcony.
I know.
Good job. But like he's got that whole thing where it's like it's illegal to say I'm going to kill the president, and he just does this whole thing. It's like, you know, a few minutes long where he just, and it's funny and it's a great thing, like a whole meta thing about free speech, where he goes like in this whole thing where it's like, you know, you can't just say like rent a room from the 4th floor of this hotel that overlooks the White House. Like, you can't just say that, you know, and obviously he is. It's great stuff. I don't know what triggered me thinking about that. It was something. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. That's the one.
Evermore. Did you know that it's illegal to say I want to kill the president of the United States of America? It's illegal. It's a federal offense. It's one of the only sentences that you're not allowed to say. And now it's okay for me to say it right then because I was just telling you that it's illegal to say I want to kill the president of the United States of America. I'm not actually.
His eyes.
Well, it's illegal. It's illegal for us to say that John Larsen, I want you to take me jugular.
Yeah.
John Larsen.
John Larsen, I'm gonna come to your house and commit a crime.
John Larsen says,
I'm going to come to Oregon. I'm going to buy you a beer, and I'm going to ask you, do you really believe in this Marxist bullshit?
I'm going to drive a Hummer right to your house, and I'm going to leave a carbon footprint that they'll think is yours.
John Larsen,
I want to commit
I'm
a
going to
crime.
get your goat stick and say, that's where the baby goats come from, you dumb shit. They come out of the ninny goat's vagina, but without the goat's penis, nothing happens.
You can say men are death and women are life, but Jordan Peterson can't say women are chaos and men are order. I'm going to come commit a crime.
This is the madness that they've caused.
That's what ends up happening when you're just blocked out. But they're the ones sitting there saying,
Yeah, like,
we have to sit here saying,
"Oh,
let me come. I want you, Hassan Piker." You know,
we tried talking nicely, but we've got no other choice but to drink wine and scotch and talk in bad Irish accents.
John Larsen. He said that
John
the
Larsen.
first time I was talking to him,
Politics
back,
is
just stay
more
away
than
from
power.
my family and my house. Like I'm gonna go do something like that.
I'm
calling you out, John Larsen.
Major simplification.
I'd never do that, John Larsen, unless it was on a moped and I came to your house.
This is me calling you out right now, John Larsen. I'll get into the ring with you.
Sit on the floor, my jugular. Here's me jugular.
I'll be there with me poker cards on Christmas Eve.
Is there something stupidly easy about doing like angry Irish guy? Like, can any of us do like a Jimmy Stewart right now?
Like a serious Irish guy?
No, or a serious Jimmy Stewart. No, well, any because for some reason that seems to be easy because like some accents are hard, but apparently angry Irish
man when I'm drunk enough.
I think you have to sound angry to do the Irish one, right?
Well,
If we just want to be a normal Irish guy, would any of us dare try?
I can do it all right. I just don't have a lot to say right now.
Because I tried to learn to talk like there's a YouTube guide on how to talk like Jimmy Stewart. I watched it once, but I didn't practice very much.
So I had this.
I remember.
There was this kid that it was in my. I thought that everybody could do voices when I was younger, and so I remember this kid in my ward. We wanted to, like, we were gonna go for a ward activity to his play, and he was like really excited about it, and I was such an asshole to him because I didn't realize it because I didn't like him very much, and he was like, oh yes, I play an Irishman in this one, and you'll have to come and you'll have to listen to me Irish brogue. I do an Irish accent. I could do this for hours. And I was sitting there like, why the fuck are you bragging about this? This is, everyone can do that. And so I told him, I was like, that's really not that impressive, laddie. I don't know why you're so impressed with yourself right now. And then like later I was like, oh no, I guess I found out like not everyone could do that, and I was a fucking dick to this guy who worked really hard on an Irish accent.
I think I could do like the different accents if I had an accent trainer and I was doing it pretty immediately after they were teaching me stuff. That type of stuff.
Anybody can learn it.
Like I don't have it like locked in. Yeah.
That was the thing about the Jimmy Stewart thing I saw is that like I mean I'm not great at it, but there's like a few things they point out like you roll the end of your R's like Jimmy Stark. That R, you kind of have to roll your tongue on your R's, and that's part of the Jimmy Stark. Like just that dumb little thing makes you sound more like Jimmy Stark.
Have you seen that guy? I think we shared him back around. He's kind of more popular a couple years ago, where he'd review people's accents. Oh, he's on Wired.
Man, we are way off. I got it.
No, it's the
other thing. Like I have too much fun with it because like I slept 4 hours the last few nights, and
I got a puppy, man. I ain't sleeping at all ever.
Oh, little dog. Doggo. Wait, who watched your dog when you were on vacation?
It was just at my parents.
Oh.
Did you want to watch it?
Well, I have a car now, so I can totally get around.
You can do that.
I love pet sitting.
Are you, Kevin, this is the part where you start yelling, just let the boy watch your dog. You're the one off to the right of him.
For the love of God! Just let the boy shower in your bath.
Oh, that's holy. Let the boy wash your dog.
I remember when I was 17, I was staying at my friend's house, and we were hanging out, and I went I had to use the bathroom, and I used the basement, the rarely used basement toilet, and and he was just like in the main living room, like they had a 3-story house, like basement, ground floor, upper level, which was a big deal. Anyway, it's like I went and used the bathroom, and I came upstairs, and I just said. I couldn't find any toilet paper, so I used a towel. And I watched his face. And I was like, no, I'm kidding.
All right, here's this guy critiquing Irish.
Have a look at Johanna Hoffman's jaw.
All software developers.
It's a much closer jaw. It's much higher, less space between the teeth.
Extremely easy to use.
Look at Kate Winslet's.
But what you make isn't supposed to be the best part of you.
Much more open. Meryl Streep and Sophie's Choice, check out her jaw.
I had a lover who was very, very good to me.
So Irish is about sticking out your lower jaw?
This guy looks exactly like Jen from It's Always Sunny.
Accent.
Kevin, do you remember we had a friend? He's Johnny Ritchie. He's actually kind of semi-famous around Utah. He was a fighter around here, and he has like a show, little ball of hate. Yeah, he would go around. I was with him. We'd go around downtown, and he'd be in an Irish accent all night. And he was Irish, but he didn't have an Irish accent. And he actually came across an Irish guy. And the Irish guy was talking to him, and he tried to keep it up for like 20 minutes. I got to see that trope that you might see in a movie happen in real life. He was sitting there like, oh, you're from Ireland. What part of Ireland are you from? He's like, well, you're right outside of Dublin. You know, he's there saying stuff like that. It was so funny.
Did I tell you my New Zealand guy story? I think I might have told this on the channel before. It was right after we got married. We were in this BYU Idaho's weird because you got your student wards, but then after you get married, you go to a different still student ward. It's the married student ward. And so we went there, and my first day, we get in this big circle, and the elders quorum guy addressing everyone's like, all right, we're gonna go around in a circle, and we're just gonna tell us a little bit about yourselves. Tell us where you're from, what you're majoring in. If you served a mission, tell us where you served. I'll start with me. My name's Jordan. I'm from Georgia, born and raised. Like, what the fuck, Georgia? What are you talking about? And he's like, oh, I said my mission in New Zealand. That's why I talk funny like this. It's like, oh,
Oh
fuck
yeah, like
off,
it lingered.
man.
It lingered over.
Shut the fuck. No, he's lying. He's full of shit. He's trying. He
He's
knew how to
joking?
do the accent.
Oh,
No,
gotcha.
he kept it.
He's being
like,
serious
for years. He
like
was
Madonna
pretending.
when she came back.
Yeah, he was pretending so he could have a cool accent. No, nobody does that. You don't spend 2 years in a place and
Madonna did it.
Oh, I can't help it. I just talk like Steve Irwin now.
It
About 8 years old. 8 years old is the limit. Like if you
that's actually
are
my
circulating
sister-in-law.
that point, like if you're older than that, that's your accent. That's how you talk.
No, that's actually it's funny because my sister-in-law is from Haiti, and she was adopted when she was 11. Her younger sister was also adopted, but she was like 7 or 8. And so my sister-in-law you can hear a Haitian accent, but her sister doesn't at all, really.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Like, no matter how close
this
they
is the
get,
stuff. This
there's
is the
still that
stuff that
betrayal.
Chomsky was actually the professor of who actually figured it out. It's called a near native speaking. This was the other part of what I did in grad school, second language acquisition. And Chomsky discovered that after a certain age, after you get, it's not exactly 8, it's going to be different for every single person, but something gels in, and then you can only ever get near native speaking. And what that means is if anybody talks for this long after that age in any other language, they can get really good at it. But if they're talking as long as I'm talking right now, they would have given something away. Even if you say, that guy's great, I didn't hear anything. But if you're being honest, like somebody can get really good. And if you're being honest, I heard this little thing and this little thing.
There's always weird little.
There's only ever near
grammatical
nativeness
constructs. There's always I don't know. I grew up Brazilian American, and so I've heard a million Brazilian immigrants talk. Like my mom came to Brazil and went to BYU, and she had a roommate who they had similar lives. Like they both married American men, and I've known them my whole life. And my mom's accent is relatively mild, whereas her roommate's from college's accent is extremely thick to this day. So there's variation in that. But even then, when my mom is very good at English in that when she's trying, she can do the. Jared knows about this where Brazilians can't do Earl. They can't do the Earl sounds, and they can't do anything with TH. They're just fucked on that. Whereas my mom can do it, but she has to be focusing to do it, where she starts to slip. It's
so you can only ever be near native. And I actually kind of have a belief on this, that there's a lot about the human brain that is a bit more, it's not blank slateness, and this is one of the stuff Stephen Pinker talks about, but there's a lot that's fungible, that can get messed around with in the brain before that thing locks in, and it's about the same time. And then once it locks in, it locks in. I actually believe there's a lot to do with sexuality around the same exact thing, that there's a lot that can be like the born this way thing, whatever. I do think there's preconceptions, we're all evolutionary beings, but there's a lot of stuff that can get jacked with. But then once you hit the same moment that native language locks in, I think sexuality also locks in. I think they're all right in the same, there's no unlocking it. You could only ever, if you're a gay guy, you can only ever become, if you wanted to try to say, no, I'm not going to be a gay guy or something like that. You can only.
You ought to shut your damn mouth right now, Chris Hanna. That's a damn phobia right there. And I'm calling I'm coming to your house and committing a crime.
Well, okay, when a Nazi on the internet says something like that, okay, but you can only ever be near. You can pretend as much as you want, but you'll only ever be near native. You'll never be a native. And I don't think it's just homosexuality. I think fetishes and stuff get locked in the same way. That's how I view it and believe it, that it all kind of ties in. And just to go along with that too, I love how everybody's always telling Peterson he needs to stay in his own lane with his own stuff. This is the stuff that Chomsky, this is why he was a doctorate. So if you want somebody to stay in their own fucking lane, where the hell's Chomsky been the past 30 years?
Yeah.
Not in his lane. All right, let's see that.
Tom Cruise, far and away.
Grace isn't Trump. She's a dancer in the barbecue. She's my sister.
I'm sure this could have been better.
Enough.
The actor wasn't given enough time to prepare.
Said that.
That's usually what he says. He usually says, I could have gotten anybody good if you gave me time to prepare. But I also think too is if they have the speech coach with them right there as they're sitting there repeating the lines, although one of Kevin's and my favorite line to repeat is the line from Hail Caesar, where they're trying to get the kid to speak a British accent, and there's what's his name, Ray Fiennes, telling him, "Where did it was so simple," and the other kid's going, "Where did it turn so simple? Where did it turn so simple?" And we just that whenever somebody starts saying some sort of John Larsen fix for the world, we like to go, "Where did it turn so simple, John Larsen? Where did it turn so simple?"
I think there's a good analog between an ability to learn a musical instrument and an ability to learn accents.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like I mean, I grew up bilingual, and so like I remember like I was a teenager before I start to realize, oh, I have two different like sets of noises in my brain. Like there's a thing that happened a million times in my life where it's like my little sister, her name isn't Tosca, but we only ever called her Tosca. And we would always call her nothing but Tosca. And a million, like, my friends would say, like, what do you call your little sister? And I'd say Tosca. And they say, Tosca? I say, no, Tosca. They say, Tosca? I say, no, Tosca. And it took me a while before I realized, like, oh, American T's are palatal. I learned these words as an adult. American T's are palatal. Brazilian T's are dental. American K's are palatal. Brazilian K's are glottal. And so like, and I got exposed to all this, and then like since then I've been a gigantic learner and have studied like Russian and Arabic and a little bit of Korean and stuff like that. And like I've actually set out to try to learn to make the weird noises, but I've practiced hard at it, and I understand why it's hard for people if you're not either exposed to it or practice it. But
I can do pretty good at it.
Pick up a bass and play it quickly. Some people can never learn to play the bass. I think it's the same thing with accents. Some people
there's certain accents that are pretty good. Like I got on my mission, especially, I got to the point, and I take pride in it. Like if I could, people didn't see me, but I could answer a phone and they wouldn't know for a little bit or something like that. And that was only like really when you were, because it's also a muscle. Like if you're in it every day.
If I was impersonating somebody, like if I was impersonating a Brazilian, I was told, like they would always be like, "Why don't you always talk like that? Because when you talk like that, you don't have an accent at all." I was like, "Well, I feel like I'm."
Because you feel like you're being fake or something like that.
Feels like if I speak in a British accent right now, it's fake.
Yeah. So I mean, and I thought like I had to be in deep and practicing deep. It usually got better when I had a Spanish companion a Spanish speaking companion. So I was just in it all day, and then it would get to moments where it was like, oh, I'm really ripping and rolling right here. But then I met this lady who was Arabic, and she tried to teach me some H sounds, and she was just laughing her ass off at me. Trying to say the words, and I could not hear what the hell she thought I was doing wrong or funny. And I'm like, well, that's a little bit of a different accent than whatever the Spanish thing is, and I can't even hear what she thinks is so funny about what I'm doing here.
Yeah, no, like I had, because I'm an American, I'm a soccer fan forever, and when American soccer announcers say Brazilian soccer players' names, it's okay. It's fine. There's nothing there. But English accents, British accents, the way they say Brazilian soccer player's name. And here's Kaká, and now Ronaldinho, and there's Neymar.
I used to like, that's when I do the George Bush impersonation in Spanish, but I used to like my companion, he was on here, he had a southern accent, and at first it came out real strong in the Spanish. He'd be like, yo quiero mucho decirles que yo soy. Yo creo en Dios. I used to do the George Bush like a.
You crazy.
Que ustedes.
What did you say?
Si ustedes.
Zapato.
Porque si usted quiere engañar a mí, no me puede engañar dos veces a ti. And so I could do I can't do George Bush in English, but I could do his Spanish.
Yeah, you nailed that.
But like one thing that always bothered me is like it wasn't until I was an adult and that I had actually like learned to break this down that I was able to imitate my mom. Because when I was up until I was like a teenager, if you asked me to imitate my mom, I couldn't do it right. But I'm able to now.
One of the things that always drive me crazy on my mission is there was all sorts of guys who had Mexican mothers, whatever. And they didn't speak Spanish at all, really, but they still got there way faster, and their accent got way better than the rest of us. I saw it happen many, many times.
Like, because Mexican K's are closer to Brazilian case. Like that's the thing I've noticed. Like, and that's the thing like that I've learned. Like, because for Americans, like they don't even think about it. If anybody wants to know, the linguistic word for this is allophones. It's where like there in like, for example, in American English, I think there's 6, maybe 7 ways that we pronounce the letter T that are actually all phonetically different, and we just hear them the same. But people who from different languages hear them differently, like butter, flatter, tip, pit, nitrate, nitrate. I think that's the 6.
Now,
those are all actually different sounds.
That's something that really like came to prominence when like I was learning that Cyrillic alphabet, and like one of the letters it kind of looks like a W, and the one right next to it looks kind of like a W with a little tail on it.
The sh and the sh.
Yeah,
that messes you up.
Well, see, when the lady that was reading it, the first one she said "sha," and then the second one she said "sha," and I was like, "What is that a question?" Like,
yeah,
but somebody explained it. They're like, "Well, it's sh as in shrimp versus sh as in shoe," and I was like, "Oh, I guess that's different."
Yeah.
You want to know what's funny is I know that
in leaf, the L in leaf, and the L in feel. The L in feel is in English we call it the dark L. In Turkish, that's 2 different letters.
Huh.
So you want to know what's funny is we know that from all the years of listening to Larsen, his undergraduates in linguistics, I bet you Flip could even take him on in that. We're coming for you, Larsen!
We're coming for your credentials.
The vowel sounds in like.
Why can't you say you like my suit?
And hat.
Can't you say you like my hat?
Keep going all over the place.
You like my hat.
Sometimes they're close. Sometimes they're just.
Say it!
Tom Cruise.
I've earned this.
I was showing
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, The Walk.
Uh-oh.
Stairs going up. Go back to the hotel. If I'm not back in 5 hours, look for me at the police station.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
this
you
is
lost
pretty
it
good.
in the middle.
They're-
No, in the middle you heard it. Like each individual word was fine, but it's in the middle of the sentence you hear it go.
There are definitely things that could be improved. Here's a good thing. Listen to the vowel in stop.
They just rise and never stop. It's not human.
Pretty dead on. So you might pull out his R sounds here as being inconsistent. Sometimes he's got a French uvular
They're the scale. They're the scale.
Sometimes a more American sounding r.
They just rise. They just rise.
But people are inconsistent. That's real. That TH sound.
I'm mad with this. This is my dream.
He nails it, and it's too easy. That's hard for a French speaker.
Voila.
Idris Elba, Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom.
My lord, it is not I, but the government that should be put in the dock.
This is a great job.
They should notice that Idris Elba whenever he's doing English. When he does the Baltimore accent in The Wire, he's a British guy. And I didn't know that when I was watching The Wire. That's what he should get
Who
credit
the
for.
fuck is this Johnny Delira guy on
Johnny
the
Delira.
Latter-day Lobsters group who posted, "I just discovered Dan Maclellan and he's now my favorite Mormon."
Oh, you just saw that one?
What in the fucking hell?
Flip and I already commented on that one.
I kind of feel bad. Everybody jumped on that guy, and it's like one of those things. Like, wow, I kind of like maybe.
I deleted Facebook on my phone for this month, so the first time I'm really seeing Facebook.
You hadn't seen that one?
No, well, so I deleted it like last week, so I haven't seen anything all week. And now I pull up Facebook to look at this. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's one of the first ones that popped up to you.
Yeah,
This is I'm gonna go to my favorite bad accent, and then we can maybe get to wrapping it up. I was showing this to Omi the other day.
He's lost his greedy mind, poor chap. I want you to take over for his foreign client, this rather eccentric Count Dracula. He's buying up property around London.
Of course, sir. I'll attend to the Count. Thank you for your confidence.
This is a great opportunity for you, Harker. But you will have to leave Transylvania immediately. Opportunities such as this come but once in a lifetime.
Yes, of course, sir. If I may inquire, what in fact happened to Mr. Renfield in Transylvania?
It's such a sad thing because it's like it like ruins the movie. It's Francis Ford Coppola. Gary, what's his name, puts in one of his best acting jobs of a lifetime.
Oldman.
It's got all sorts of Gary Oldman. It's got all sorts of crazy good old timey references to types of filmmaking Like if you watch like the Red Letter Media guys go over it, they use all these old tricks, old ways of filming stuff, and the Keanu Reeves stuff just shits on it so hard. It's it's such a turd in the punch bowl. You can't even deal with it.
Because if you remember Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, because like the story there is that Costner tried to do an accent, and they're just like, nope. Just
you ever heard of?
Don't do it. I think we're gonna pretend like everything's fine.
Well, I've told you what my take on that is. People don't realize that the great vowel shift happened in England. It didn't happen here. So a more real accent to early England is like New Englanders around here. So in that movie, probably Kevin Costner was right. Everybody else was wrong.
Yeah. This is bad.
Successful.
Oh, yes.
Gary Oldman just. I sometimes feel like I've watched it several times. It's one of my favorite movies, but I sometimes feel like when he's swinging his sword like that, I feel like the anger was real. Is that?
Well, I know I have seen the legendary Gary Oldman is mad on set outtakes from this.
Yeah. There's real outtakes. There's a whole bunch of backstory stuff where there's stuff where is it? Keanu Reeves starts talking here, and imagine this really is him mad at his acting.
We're to be married as soon as I return. Are you married, Count?
Many strange things already. Bloody wolves chasing me through some blue inferno.
Why did he get like? Is Keanu Reeves? I don't understand him because he seems like the biggest example of like failing upward, and everybody loves him, and he's good enough in John Wick, you know.
He was a good stunt actor. Is what
he was perfect as Neo.
Yeah, he's a blank.
Yeah, but Neo's not anything really.
That's what he needed to be.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, he's
it seems to be like he does appear to be like just the most perfectly nice guy. Like
he seems really awesome.
Hollywood, where he's just like
I think he's even
nobody has a bad thing to say about him.
He's come out and admitted that he knows this was a bad job.
And then she found peace.
Doctor, please.
I can't blame him. I would like if they offered me the job and I did this terrible, I'd still do it, like for money.
Everybody here is a musician, right? We're all musicians, right? At some point, at some level. Because there's a thing I've experienced in my life. Because like for a long time in my life, I would say like I can teach anybody to play "Beat on the Brat" by the Ramones on the bass in 5 minutes. And then like
and then you meet that one person,
and then I'm like, okay, no, some people just don't have music.
Yeah.
Some people don't have it. Like I wanted to believe, it's one of those like it's like that Jordan Peterson thing about like everyone's creative. No, they're not. Like I want to be like, oh, everybody's got music. No,
you've met somebody who
don't have music.
Who cannot get the pitch, like they cannot get the pitch of a song to save their life at all.
Yeah, and I think like with accents, there's something like Keanu Reeves, God bless him, he's created so many things, but he doesn't understand accents.
I doubted everything, but then they.
Doctor, you must understand. I doubted everything. In my mind, I was impotent with fear.
Impotent with fear.
It's like somebody spelled it out phonetically in English, and he just took it to a fear.
He sounds like Trey Parker doing a bad accent on purpose.
Yeah. Although one of them, they had him do an entire Shakespeare.
Oh Christ.
Oh my God! Oh, this thing! Oh my God!
It's another good movie. It's a good movie. It's done by Kenneth Branagh. Denzel Washington does well.
I thank you.
Leah Thomas is in it.
I am not of many words.
Well,
but I thank you.
He's the villain.
Madness is without limit.
You should hear reason.
And when I have heard it, but blessing brings it. I cannot hide what I am.
Is it the accent that's worse or the acting?
Smile at no man's jests.
Even
when I have stomach, wait for no man's leisure.
He looks like he's trying to act poorly.
And tend on no man's business. Laugh when I am merry, and
claw no man in his humor.
I don't think he's even trying to do
I
a
realized
British
a long
accent.
time ago, like for me, I realized like I put people in movies into two categories. There are screen personalities, Tom Cruise, Keanu Reeves,
Yeah.
screen personality, and then there are actors. Gary
Yeah.
Oldman, actor, right? Maggie Thompson, what's her name? Fucking, I'm trying to think.
Is it
Anyway.
Thomas or just Thompson?
Anyway, there's a million, but yeah, like one thing,
Oh.
because I think one thing I feel for a long time is that Britain seems to produce
Emma
far
Thompson.
more
It's Emma
actors.
Thompson
Yeah, Emma
and
Thompson.
Daniel
No,
Day-Lewis.
there's a bunch of. I'm just trying to think of
Oh, yeah,
great
Daniel
actors.
Day-Lewis.
But like, yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is very good. But like, yeah, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, people who like, because Gary Oldman is one of those classic examples of where like you might be halfway through a movie before you realize like, oh, that's Gary Oldman.
Oh, he's over the top good.
Like,
yeah,
he's over the top good. Whereas like Tom Cruise is always Tom Cruise, and Keanu Reeves is always Keanu Reeves, and Tom Hanks is pretty much always Tom Hanks, and that's fine because we like those guys.
Yeah.
But they're not actors; they're personalities, and I think for me that's the difference. An actor,
I think one of
somebody
the-
that, like you can give them a role and they will transform like magic.
I'll bring it
It's
up a lot
also
because
the difference
there's
between
this
good drag and bad drag.
there's this snobbiness from the British side that you can't come over and do our British and our Irish accents. But then there's all these Irish and British accent people who come over here and try to speak, and it's so ridiculous when you hear them talk. I remember Orlando. Did we already talk about that on this?
You and I talked about it on the one we talked about the.
Oh yeah, we brought it up before
with Julia Child.
Oh yeah. Because the Julia, the Julia Child show. She's sitting there going all the way through it, and halfway through, I'm starting to think Julia Child has a British accent, and after a minute, I was like, wait a minute, she's Californian. Like, what the heck is this? And then after a while, I was like, well, not only have they rewritten everything that she's gay, but she's like this dainty British woman. I'm like, she was a beefy mud wrestling Californian. Like, what the crap is this stuff? But because she was like, oh, just pick up the turkey and wrestle it down. She was Sam
6 feet
Hyde,
tall,
man.
right?
They're the same person. Like Sam Hyde and what's her name?
The fire coming out of her.
I'll cook your turkey. You know,
She was 10 feet tall with fire coming out of her eyes and lightning bolts coming out of her arse.
She was 6'2". She could have played in the WNBA.
Yeah, and she was mean and she was rough and now they got this lady going on. Oh dear, I'm able to be a racist. Oh, and I think I'm gay. Woo! but the other one I was pointing out is like Orlando Bloom in Elizabethtown. He's like, I would really like to go on a date with you. And another one is it's one of my, I like the movie a lot. Is I Heart Huckabees. It's kind of an interesting philosophical movie, but it gets killed by Jude Law being in there. Like, what do I really want out of life? I don't know. What do I really want?
It was one of the last times that Family Guy was funny, like 16 years ago. Was when they said something about
the Liam Neeson thing.
Like, yeah, Liam Neeson trying to act like an American cowboy.
That was good.
She must be at least 600 meters from here. Who knows how many fortnights it would take us to get there?
Yeah. No, like
another one is that Gerard Butler.
Like the typical British
Mr.
TV
President,
accent.
I'm here to protect you, Mr. President.
Yeah, the typical British TV actor's American accent is just kind of a bad Texan.
Yeah, and they way overkill the R's like that. One of the other funny ones is Sean Connery and freaking what's that one about the Chicago police guys? The third, I forget what it's called, but it's funny because it's the same thing as Kevin Costner. People just didn't realize it because they weren't snobby around here, but he just stays in a Scottish accent through the whole thing. And you're like, wait a minute, this guy's just a Chicago police officer. He's supposed to be sitting there going like, brat bears. What's the Farley stuff? Brats, the Cubs, the Bears.
Yeah,
the Bears, the Bears. I'm a Cubby too. The Bears, the Bears.
Like Morgan Freeman plays an Arab, right? In Prince of Thieves.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
like he did any better. Yeah.
He did better than Kevin Costner could do English. Because they let him do it. He did fine.
Well,
all right.
Once again, we end up on linguistics and accents and weird stuff like that.
For some reason, we care about language.
Yeah. Well, Kevin says he's got to go. Flips getting tired, and I think we've committed internet crime by calling out John Larsen. So, and we're gonna get taken down either for that. Or
John Larsen, I'm coming for you, and I'd strangle you if I could fit me hands round your meaty gob.
We might get taken down for a few things. I said clitoris twice now.
You said clitoris.
We said retarded like 4 times.
We had weird theories about homosexuality. We talked about the Coof without covering up what the Coof is. We made fun of the sacred boosters.
Did you know that if you have COVID and you take ivermectin, that's probably fine now?
Yeah, that's
According
on
to
the
CDC
NIH.
as of
According to the
just
NIH.
now?
What about
NIH is advocating horse dewormer apparently.
Oh
Yeah,
my
no.
goodness.
Apparently, Joe Rogan's veterinarian is running the NIH.
Okay. Well,
Alright.
I think we got 3 hours and 17 minutes. I'll cut it into 2, I think.
Let's hope.
It's pretty, yeah. Well, sometimes it's hard because like some jokes way at the beginning, we circle back to them. We're too good at circling back at stuff. It messes me up when if we wanted to like really cut stuff in 10 minutes, we got to stop thinking of like circling back to jokes. But
I was punchy to begin with, and then I drank Merlot.
But it's too fun to circle back to jokes. But well, right on.
Alrighty.
All right, dudes.
Maybe that one of Larsen there, everything that went there would be something to talk, because Streeter was talking about giving him something to jump off of. Maybe that just single thing at the end there of them talking about maybe we could talk to a conservative is good enough.
No, I can't and not even a conservative. Just somebody who is critical of you.
The way they fantasize, they beat him up and they own him, and then they talk themselves out of it. But we can't do it. We can't platform a MAGA person. We can't do it.
No, I commented on that video in the middle of this. Told him like, hey, if you want a reasonable conservative voice, I'll do it, and I could name several other people who'd be willing to do it as well. And I was very cordial. I won't get a response. I know that.
You've got to show.
If somebody can do it, I can't do it. If somebody can go onto the Mormon Stories social media and put it out there, they said, let's bring on a conservative voice. If the audience, you guys nominate somebody, I'm sure we can crowdsource, like, who's the guy that could do it.
They want somebody like Jim Bennett or something like that, who's barely a conservative himself. He's anti-Trumpy stuff anyway, and I don't know. They're bluffing. Like my comment that got disappears. That's you guys doing your great big bluff again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Sounds fun.
Hasta la pasta, y'all.
Peace.